Hello everyone and welcome to the full series. This will be a movie-length video of my completed series What If Piccolo Was Never Born, from Dragon Ball all the way into the manga and superhero movie. Now grab a snack while watching this or have it play in the background while you are working, and let's dive into the completed story of What If Piccolo Was Never Born. Beginning at the moment where Goku would defeat King Piccolo by charging right through his chest, and like we said earlier, this wound would instantly kill King Piccolo, not giving him the chance to spit out an egg to spawn in Piccolo Jr. At first, this could be seen as a good thing, at least for the remainder of the Dragon Ball story before getting into Z, but this will have a very negative effect. So stating the obvious here, without Piccolo Jr. this means that Kami would die since his other half permanently died and wouldn't be connected to Piccolo Jr., keeping him alive. This will also turn the Dragon Balls into stone and not usable anymore. This will also mean that Kami cannot resurrect the dragon for the Dragon Balls, meaning that the Z fighters that died by King Piccolo and his minions would stay dead. So Krillin, Chaozu, and Master Roshi would remain dead for the time being. Maybe Goku should have held back a bit, but it's too late to go back. So once he defeated King Piccolo, the others would head over to get Goku and Tien. They would be shocked to see that the Dragon Balls are stone, as Tien would tell them that King Piccolo killed the dragon, and now the Dragon Balls are no use, and their friends can be brought back to life, which they were all sad to hear. They would return to Kame House to recover, but Goku did not want to waste any time and decides to head over to the lookout to ask Korin about how he can bring back the Eternal Dragon, which he is then told to reach the top of the lookout, but he did so in a sad, quiet tone. Goku didn't understand why Korin was so quiet, but he dismissed it as he continued his journey to reach the top of the lookout, determined to bring back Shenron and revive his friends. However, once he made it to Kami's lookout, he would only see a saddened Mr. Popo, as Goku would then learn about Kami and his connection with Demon King Piccolo, and how he was the only one that could revive the dragon, but with him dead, the Dragon Balls cannot work anymore. This breaks Goku, realizing that his dead friends can't be brought back, and worst of all is that he was the reason that Kami is dead. He would definitely be very torn up about it. Sadly, this would have to be the reality that they live in, as Mr. Popo doesn't know about Kami's alien origin until Piccolo and Kami found out in the Saiyan Saga. Goku would return to the others, saddened over the news as this lowered everyone else's morale. But I would say that Yamcha would be the one to try to motivate Tien and Goku that they must keep training to grow stronger, so that something like this would not happen again, as now they cannot rely on the Dragon Balls anymore. After some grieving, Goku brings Yamcha and Tien to the lookout, so they could all do their training under Mr. Popo. Now Goku grew from a power level of 260 to 360 in 3 years training alone, but this time is very different. One, Goku isn't alone now and has Tien and Yamcha, who are skilled fighters in their own right. Also, their attitude now with no more Dragon Balls, they would take their training very seriously, as now if they die they won't be coming back. All three of them would train intensely for the 3 years, even hopping into the time chamber altogether. Now they wouldn't be able to stay in a full year since they would run out of food, but I think they could manage to do at least 6 months before having to leave, and I think they would do that 2 times to get a whole extra year worth of training. Now with 4 years of training under their belt, together here are their power levels. Goku went from 260 to 750, Tien went from 145 to 600, and Yamcha being close behind Tien going from 102 to 575. They all do wonder how Goku manages to keep ahead of both of them. It was because of his Saiyan biology, but they don't know that Goku is an alien still. After the 3 years in the real world passed, it was time for the 23rd World Tournament, which the remaining Z fighters would attend. It would be a bit sour since they had to live their lives without their fallen friends. Also, a romantic spark would begin between Yamcha and Bulma since they have been apart for so long. A good thing here is that there is no Piccolo Jr. threat, so the group could enjoy this tournament like any other. Goku, Tien, and Yamcha were excited to participate as they wanted to test each other's skills, even though they have been training together non-stop for the last few years. Some of the matchups would change since there is no Krillin, Kami, and Piccolo Jr. They would just be replaced by some random fighters. Tien vs Tao would be very anticlimactic as Tien is much more powerful than Tao, so this fight would be heavily one-sided and Tao would even be able to touch Tien. Goku's match against Chi-Chi would be very much the same. I don't think he would reject her even in this grimmer timeline, but later on we really explain to her how training, to him, is very serious. Yamcha wouldn't be humiliated by Kami and would easily win his first round, moving on to the next match. Next match would be Goku vs Tien, and this would be a much more intense fight with the fact that the two of them are much more powerful this time around. They will remove their weighted clothing and everything. still having to hold back to not endanger everyone's lives, but they would still be shooting ki attacks and moving so fast that no one besides Yamcha could really see them. It would be all a blur to them. No doubt this fight would make it look like their canon one was kids play, and eventually Goku still would end up winning the match. Yamcha would have another easy match winning against a normal opponent, but he is very hyped up to be in the finals fighting against Goku, and actually having a real match. This fight would be much closer than what most people think. Even with Yamcha being weaker than Goku, Goku would be a bit exhausted after his fight with Tien. This final match would be just like the fight with Goku and Tien, fast and powerful. Dashing across the arena, each blow clashing. They would even remove their weighted clothing to continue their fight as they remember the first time they met when they had their first match, as they wanted to actually settle the score between the two of them. After a good close fight, in the end it would still be Goku coming out on top, winning the 23rd World Tournament. After that, some things would play out the same, like Goku marrying Chi-Chi, but what changed is the relationship of the group. They wouldn't completely go quiet on each other, as Goku would still train with Yamcha and Tien very often during the 5 years to keep up and not grow weaker. But their growth and power would grow less and less as they would use every resource they had on Earth. Even going into the time chamber wouldn't do anything for them, but they just kept training. Here I do see that Yamcha and Bulma would actually stay together, since this version of Yamcha is more serious when it comes to training and would really want to protect Bulma. So I don't see him acting out like how he did in canon, making him lose Bulma in the original story. With both couples, they would actually have their own kid around the same time, being Gohan and Trunks, with Gohan being the older of the two. Once they got around the age of 4, they would begin training their sons to make sure they could be strong and know how to fight to protect themselves, as they did not want to take any chances if any other threats would appear. But for the last 8 years, things have remained peaceful for the Z Fighters, even though they no longer have the Dragon Balls and at this point accepted the ones they have lost. In the other world, we would see the fighters we have lost and see what they have been up to for the last 8 years. They would explore the other world and continue their journey of training. They would have to accept the fact that they can be brought back, which sucks, but eventually they would live on with it, being happy to see that they have been brought closer together after their deaths. Kami would have been gone for a while, as the others are not sure where he went, while Roshi and Chaozu eventually fully accepted that their time has come, and would actually stop training and just enjoy their time in the other world. But for Krillin, he wants to keep growing stronger after seeing all the types of fighters that are in the other world. When he did first arrive, he was like an ant compared to everyone else, but he stayed motivated, wanting to grow stronger in power. He would hear about training with Kais. He would eavesdrop on hearing about the training of King Kai, and he decided that he wanted to train under him, sneaking his way to Snake Way and begin his long path to King Kai's planet. Once arriving, he would easily be able to make King Kai laugh and begin training under him, and this training would be very difficult for him. He did grow a bit stronger in his time in the other world, but he was not prepared for the 5 times Earth gravity on King Kai's planet. He would spend 4 years training with King Kai and growing quite close to him. He would learn the Kaioken and know how to use it pretty well. Good thing that he doesn't have a physical body, because his kid body would not be able to handle Kaioken at all. They would talk a lot, and Krillin would talk about his friends on Earth and the adventures they had. Still watching them from time to time, until that is when Kami would appear in front of the two, telling Krillin that they may still be able to come back to life, but what is worse is that their friends and the planet is in huge danger. So before we get into where we left off, I did see all the comments about Goku's tail and King Kai's gravity difference. Since Kami died, he would not have removed Goku's tail, and I did forget about that. Honestly though, nothing would really change if he did have his tail still, but I would think that Yamcha would tell Goku the truth about his tail of being a great ape when he does look at the full moon. So Goku would figure out that he was the one that killed Grandpa Gohan in the past earlier than in canon. He could remove his tail right then and there, but I also see him wanting to try to learn how to control the power, so we will have him keep his tail and just adjust that during the 5 years. He would try to learn how to control the power to use it later on, if he can, and possibly could teach Gohan how to control it as well, since Gohan is still born with a tail. Further gravity training on King Kai's planet being 10 times, not 5 times Earth gravity. Krillin's training on King Kai's planet would just mean that he grows stronger, since I never did state how strong he got when training with King Kai. Back to where we left off with Kami during his time in the other world, he ventured off and learned all he could, and would come across other people that looked like him, as he would learn the truth of his origin of being an alien from another planet, which shocked him. He would also train with some of the warrior Namekians in the other world to grow stronger, as the guilt of not being able to stop his other half himself and got so many people killed haunted him, and if he were ever to come back to life, he would like to be strong enough to stop the threats himself or at least help out. Throughout the years he grew stronger, and with being a deity, he would catch the attention of the Kais of the other world and spend time training with them, but more importantly wanting to learn more about the known universe. That's when he would learn about Saiyans and Goku's origin, but what is worse is the fact that there is a Saiyan heading to Earth as they speak, which worries Kami, as that is when he would arrive at King Kai's planet to warn Krillin about the threat. Now with the power levels for both Kami and Krillin, Kami wasn't training for the entire time as he focused more on increasing his knowledge, only getting around 2 years worth of training during the 8 years. But he did grow quite strong fighting with other fighters from the other world who are strong in their own right. So I would say a good amount for Kami would be around 6,500. But with Krillin, when he was killed after the 22nd World Tournament, his power level was 115. He spent 4 years training around other world fighters, which would be slow at first but quickly go higher and higher, so I would say 7,000 would be a safe save for his power level. But then when he reached King Kai's planet and started his training with 10 times Earth gravity and learning the Kaioken for another 4 years, his power level would reach to a power level of 20,000. And being able to reach Kaioken times 20 only in his dead body. Once he gets revived, he wouldn't be able to use it in his kid body, but if he wished to be in his normal age body, he would be able to use around times 10 before any real strain gets to him. Kami would tell Krillin everything he has learned during his time in the other world, as he told him that he was a part of an alien race called the Namekians, and they are the ones who made the Dragon Balls. So if they can make contact with them, then it is possible for them to be brought back to life, but also other things like the Emperor Frieza, the Saiyan that is heading to Earth, and Goku being a Saiyan as well. King Kai wouldn't mind helping out as he could telepathically talk to the Namekians, since in the original show he did know the location of planet Namek. Kami would speak to Grand Elder Guru about his current issue. Now it would no doubt be a weird conversation for Kami since this is the first time speaking to another Namekian, but also the fact that he only recently learned of the fact that he is an alien. There may be some doubt with Guru since this is someone he doesn't know, but Namekians tend to be a kind race and I could see it possible that they do help out, especially after hearing about the threat that his planet is facing. It would take a bit since they would have to bring the Dragon Balls together, but after they do, they would wish for every person killed by King Piccolo and his children to be brought back to life, since that would bring back many people who died during his reign besides Kami. He told Krillin to hurry back to Earth as they would need his help. Before he left, Krillin asked if he could use a wish to be aged up to his proper age so that he could use his Kaioken technique, which they would allow and Krillin's body would fit his actual age. Then he would quickly rush over to Earth. Meanwhile on Earth, Goku and Ko would all have a meetup at Capsule Corp to have a friendly little gathering. But that is when they would all sense a strong power level as Goku, Tien, and Yamcha would all head over to the power they are sensing. Raditz would have landed on the planet and used his scouter to scan for power levels, but he would soon see 3 separate power levels heading towards him. He would be a bit worried as the 3 power levels together could stop him, but he thought one of them could be his brother, even though he didn't complete his mission in taking over the planet. Goku and Ko would land in front of Raditz, confronting him as Raditz would tell Goku everything about their race and his purpose of being on this planet, also telling him that they are brothers. And all of this new info would overwhelm Goku, not knowing if he could believe him. Goku refused to join his brother as he did not want to take over the planet he called home, as Raditz grew angry, but he still remained peaceful as he knew that if he engaged in battle, he would no doubt lose against the 3 of them. That is when Goku and the group would hear a voice in their head being Kami from Otherworld, as he would confirm everything that Raditz has said and could even confirm that Goku is related to Raditz, also telling them the wish they made to revive everyone killed by King Piccolo and his children. They are shocked to hear his voice after 8 years as this is technically the first time they are meeting / hearing him. Once they heard about the wish, they would cheer that Krillin, Roshi, and Chaozu are finally coming back. Raditz would be standing away from them very confused on what he is hearing as the scouter would pick up about the magical wishing orbs that Yamcha would talk about. Goku would be very happy that the mistake he made all those years ago can finally be fixed, as he then looked over at Raditz. He told Raditz that if he really is his brother, he would like to not fight him and offer him to join them, and he could live on Earth. Raditz would yell at Goku, calling him a traitor, and that he is refusing to join them. He was mainly saying that because of the fact that Vegeta and Nappa are still listening in through Raditz's scouter, and they are much stronger than the 3 fighters that stand in front of him. Before the fight would begin, that is when Krillin would arrive in front of all of them, to the surprise of Goku and the others, especially when they sense his immense power level. They would all be shocked with how much he has grown compared to them. With Raditz, he wouldn't know why everyone is shocked, but once he turned on his scouter and it began reading his power level, as his eyes widened and he grew very worried. His scouter would break, but the last number he would read would be 20,000, as he quickly changed his mind. He told Goku and the others he would join them, but would warn them about the other Saiyans that are no doubt heading over to Earth in about a year's time. Tien and the others weren't so sure about it, but with someone as strong as Krillin on their side, they would allow Raditz to stay, but with Goku he would actually be happy that his brother would want to join them. With a new threat coming, the Z Fighters would begin training. Even with someone like Krillin being much stronger than the two other Saiyans, based on Raditz's information, with the way they have lived their lives the last few years without having to rely on the Dragon Balls anymore, they did not want to go back to relying on them and began training even with Krillin being supposedly stronger than Vegeta and Nappa. Note, Roshi and Chaozu would return to Earth with the others being happy that they are back, but they would continue taking a seat back in training. Roshi finally retiring and Tien not wanting to risk Chaozu again. So with Krillin being the strongest, he would lead the others in training to grow stronger and teaching them the Kaioken since he has trained with King Kai for 4 years straight. Gohan and Trunks would be joining them. They don't plan on having them fight against the Saiyans, but having them be stronger wouldn't be a bad idea. Eventually Kami would be revived by the Namekian Dragon Balls after they recharged, and this would be good, but also bad since King Piccolo would be resurrected, but he wouldn't really be a threat to anyone, as they could capture him easily, but Kami would actually fuse with King Piccolo, and with him being the stronger half, he would be the main one that takes over. This fusion would boost his power level from 6,500 to 20,000. Honestly, there is no real multiplier to base off the Namekian fusion from, so I am just assuming that the increase would be big since Kami would be fusing with his other half, letting him be completely whole, but also not trying to make him super overpowered right from the start. Krillin would also talk about the gravity training he did on King Kai's planet, and would give the idea to Bulma, as she would make the gravity room so that the Z Fighters could further grow stronger in their training for the Saiyans. Kami would grow stronger with the group as he too would pick up the Kaioken technique, and what is better is that since he is stronger, he would upgrade the Dragon Balls to become more powerful, increasing the amount of wishes they could grant. With the time ticking down, the group would train intensely until the arrival of the other two Saiyans. The time would come where the Saiyans would arrive on Earth, but before we get into that, let's dive into the power levels for everyone. Krillin at 40,000, Kami would be at 35,000 after getting his youth back and being able to use Kaioken the best out of the group thanks to his alien biology. Then Goku and Raditz would both be at a power level of 30,000 with having Kaioken, but they didn't really focus on trying to control their great ape forms since I don't think Raditz would have a complete control over his transformation himself. Yamcha and Tien would both be at a power level of 25,000, also having Kaioken, and then with the two kids, with now knowing Gohan is a Saiyan hybrid, it makes sense that his growth would surpass Trunks' growth, with Gohan being at a power level of 7,000 and Trunks at a power level at 4,500. But Trunks doesn't let that discourage him from trying to keep up with Gohan, as they did create a friendly rivalry between each other, as they would know how to use the Kaioken, but they are not permitted to use it since their kid bodies would not be able to handle it. The Z Fighters, excluding the two kids, would all head over to the Saiyans' location to face them down. Knowing about their scouters, they would suppress their power levels to make it seem that they are weaker than Vegeta. Having a standoff, Vegeta would announce his plan of wanting the Dragon Balls to become immortal and threatens Kami that if he doesn't give it to them, he will destroy the planet. This really ticked off Kami, with someone threatening the planet that he is supposed to protect, and the fact of them wanting to misuse the Dragon Balls for their selfish desires. Vegeta then looked over at Raditz with an angry look on his face, calling him a traitor to the Saiyan race. He lifted up his hand, shooting out a blast aiming to kill him, but that is when Raditz powers up to his max and deflects the attack with ease, to the surprise of Vegeta and Nappa, as they would turn on their scouters to see Raditz's power level of 30,000. And when they look over to Kami as he was trying to control his anger, his power level was rising, reaching 35,000. Their scouters both explode on their faces, as their face was filled with pure fear. Raditz warns them not to attempt to create a power ball so that they would transform into great apes, or they would quickly remove both of their tails. They were speechless, especially Vegeta. His ego would be tanked after seeing someone who used to be so much weaker than him only just a year ago far surpass him in power. He asked Raditz how it is possible that he grew much stronger than him, as Raditz explained that he may have been a low-class Saiyan, but with training, he and his brother surpassed that of an elite Saiyan. Vegeta and Nappa saw how pointless it would be if they fought, as they wouldn't have a chance to beat even the weakest of them. Vegeta would not surrender and try to fight, but that is when Goku would appear in front of Vegeta, catching his fist, telling him not to fight as he would like to spare the other two aliens that are a part of his race. Everyone wouldn't be shocked seeing how Goku is acting towards these invaders, but Raditz would try to convince his brother that they should end them now. But that is when Goku would turn to Raditz saying that there is no point in doing that. They cannot fight them, and killing them would just be a waste. He would then bring up the name Frieza, as during the year of training, Kami did talk about Frieza, as Raditz would also talk about how he and the other Saiyans wanted to overthrow Frieza, but weren't strong enough to stop him. Goku would point out that it would be better to have more fighters on their side if they did really want to stop Frieza, as Raditz would look down, accepting that he will not kill Vegeta and Nappa. The two Saiyans looked in confusion. Seeing how Goku was acting very un-Saiyan-like, they wouldn't really like the fact that they would have to work with them, but they did want to end Frieza. So for the meantime, they would decide to work with the Z Fighters since they both have a common goal. They would stay on Earth thinking about their next move, since now they would need to begin planning on how to stop Frieza. Suddenly, they would all hear King Kai's voice, telling them that Frieza is heading to planet Namek as he is looking for the Dragon Balls, to the horror of everyone. Raditz and the other two Saiyans would realize how Frieza ended up learning about the Dragon Balls, as Vegeta did say that he overheard what Yamcha said about the Dragon Balls through Raditz's scouter, and that's just how Frieza heard about it as well. Kami would then panic as his people are in danger, and worst thing is that he cannot even use his own Dragon Balls to wish them to planet Namek since he used them earlier to make himself younger, as he grew enraged at the mistake he has made. Yamcha tried to calm Kami down, saying that Bulma is very smart and that she could possibly make a ship for them to travel to Namek. Bulma could make a spaceship as she would end up using pieces of Kami's old ship, with also the space pods that Raditz, Vegeta, and Nappa arrived on Earth in. With the Saiyans there to aid her in understanding of their alien tech, Bulma would be able to make a ship much faster than in canon. Originally, it took her around 10 days to fix up Kami's old ship, but this ship would be more similar to the one Goku took to Namek, and be much bigger since they are a big group. So we will say that it took her around a week to make this ship. During that time, everyone was training as Vegeta and Nappa were learning how to use Kaioken, and they caught on very quickly. Once the ship was prepared, then came an issue as Tien would state that it would be unwise to leave the planet completely defenseless, as he and the other humans would decide to stay on Earth in case of any other threat, or if they do fail to stop Frieza. So all going to Namek would be Goku, Raditz, Vegeta, Nappa, and Kami, as Bulma could quickly teach them how to use the spaceship on their own, as she wouldn't be as risky to adventure to another planet with having a son much earlier on. With that said and done, the group would all begin heading to planet Namek, and I would say it would take around the same time it did when Goku was heading to Namek in canon. They were trained during their time on the spaceship, but not intensely, as there were 5 people on the ship at once, but it would still have the gravity room implemented in the spaceship. They would arrive on planet around the same time as Frieza's army, as they were just landing there themselves, as the Z Fighters arrived much earlier on compared to the normal story. Their power levels would all have slightly increased, to Kami, Goku, and Raditz at 50,000, Vegeta being at 38,000, and Nappa at 25,000. Note, I know Goku grew a lot more during this week of training, but there were a lot of people on this ship, so it would be hard for all of them to train intensely, and could only do slight training, but their control over Kaioken is relatively high. I don't think their arrival would go unnoticed since there are 5 people with pretty high power levels, but the group would all sense Frieza's power level as they are completely stunned, and overwhelmed with how massive Frieza's power is. Kami wouldn't want to waste time as he would fly to find Grand Elder Guru, or any Dragon Balls he can find to prevent Frieza from having any. Frieza would use the scouter to scan the power levels of the other ship that landed, and luckily they all suppressed their power levels, as Frieza would send over Kui, Zarbon, and Dodoria to check it out and to see if it was Vegeta. Kami would end up fighting Grand Elder Guru and ask Nail to speak to him, which at first Nail denied his request until Guru would command Nail to let him in, as they would meet for the first time. Kami explained how King Kai told him about the danger Namek faces with Frieza, and he and some of his friends from Earth are here to aid the Namekians from Frieza's tyranny. Guru was grateful that Kami would lend a hand after they helped him with his planet and his needs, and asked if Kami had a plan. Kami looked down as he said that none of them are anywhere near strong enough to stop Frieza, but he plans to gather the Dragon Balls to have them on standby in case they do need to use them in the future. Guru also would place his hand on Kami, unlocking his potential, as this would bring his power level from 50,000 all the way up to 200,000, as this newfound power completely shocks Kami as he thanks Guru, as he would then begin flying towards all the Namekian villages in order to collect the Dragon Balls. Back to where we left off, Frieza has just sent out some of his best men out to search for the people who just arrived on planet Namek. Meanwhile, Kami would be out searching for their Dragon Balls. With his newly acquired power boost, he would speed all across the planet, stopping at every village he can, warning them of the threat and acquiring the Dragon Ball of the village. Frieza would also pick up on Kami's power level. As his Skada would break, sensing someone this powerful, he would call on the Ginyu Force earlier on so that they could deal with Kami as he would begin his search and looking for the Dragon Balls. Kyuubi, Zarbon, and Dodoria would arrive at the Z Fighters' location and would spot Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz, as they would tell them to surrender as they still think that they are weaker than them. But what they don't know is that Nappa alone could handle all three of them, and would only need to use a bit of Kaioken to stop Zarbon if he were to transform. Vegeta and Nappa would have a grudge against the trio and would fight them alone, as Goku wouldn't mind it until he saw how they brutally ended the three of them without hesitation. Goku didn't like it, but just like how Vegeta killed some of the Ginyu Force in front of Goku in the canon timeline, Goku would just move on, as technically these guys weren't exactly good people. They would then decide to think of what their next move would be, but that is when they would sense Frieza's power level heading right towards them. Goku and Raditz were a bit nervous, but Vegeta and Nappa weren't. Vegeta believed that if they all fought him together, then it would be possible to beat him. With Kami, he would have collected the Dragon Balls and brought them all to Guru for safekeeping. Guru would then notify what had happened in the short time of him searching for the Dragon Balls, as Kami grew very worried. With the fact that Frieza called extra help and that he is heading towards his group, he knows they wouldn't last long against Frieza. Guru would tell Kami that he should use the Dragon Balls for his plan right now, as he doesn't know how much longer he has left, but he also has an idea that may up their chances to beat Frieza. Kami would then quickly use the Dragon Balls to summon Porunga to state his wishes. He would get into contact with King Kai to ask permission if the Earthlings would be okay to be wished to Namek, as how dire things quickly got. Being caught up to speed, they would accept to be transported to Namek as they would appear in front of Guru. Then Kami would ask Guru to make the wish that all the Namekians to be transported to Earth for safety, which he would do as every Namekian would be teleported off-world besides Guru and Nail. Kami would then finally ask for a bag of sensu beans, which would appear right on his hand, and with that being the third wish, Porunga would disappear and the Dragon Balls would fly away from each other. To everyone on the planet, excluding Goku, the sky being dark was a bit confusing to them, but they didn't have a clue that it was Kami using the Dragon Balls. Kami would turn around to see Guru and Nail still on the planet, as he asked why they are still here and didn't leave with the rest of the Namekians. As Guru explained what he has planned, as he told Kami about the forbidden technique of Namekian fusion, and if they want to be able to stop Frieza, then they must do the unthinkable. Guru would explain to Kami to place his hand on his, as then suddenly a bright light appeared blinding everyone, and when the light faded away, only Kami remained as the others asked what had happened to Guru. As Nail would walk to Kami and kneel before him, still calling him the Grand Elder. Kami's power increased immensely, reaching to a power level of 1.5 million, as everyone on the planet that can sense energy can feel the instant appearance of a huge power level, as the scatters would pick it up but instantly explode as the energy was far too high to scan. Kami would be amazed of the power he feels, as he hears a voice in his head. It was Grand Elder Guru, explaining to him that he had fused to become one much stronger Namekian. Kami thanked Guru for this, as now they may have a chance at stopping Frieza. But before he left, Guru told Kami that with being fused with him, he now has the abilities he had, as he explained to Kami to unlock the hidden potential of his friends from Earth to increase their strength as well. Kami would go to place his hand on the Earthling's head to awaken their hidden potential. Now, this is all based on a research I found, and hopefully it's not incorrect, but it is stated that Krillin's power level at the start of the Namek Saga was 1800, and once he got his potential unlocked, it went to 1300, which is a 7.2 times multiplier, but he continued growing throughout the saga, and at the end of the saga, he was at a power level of 75,000. Now, Krillin isn't a Saiyan, so he doesn't get Zenkai boost, so most people believe that he kept growing stronger when his potential was unleashed, so we will keep that in mind. So from that 13,000 power level, the multiplier he got at the end was a 5.7 multiplier. Now, these numbers of each human's potential would be different, as I believe each of them would have more potential than the others. So here are their power levels. Krillin would go from 45,000 to 324,000, keeping the same multiplier, and by the end of the saga, he would be at a power level of 1.8 million. Tien will go from a power level of 30,000 to 240,000, giving him an 8 times boost when he gets his potential unlocked, as I believe he would have more potential than Krillin, and by the end of the saga, he would be at a power level of 1.44 million, which giving him a 6 times boost, which is more than Krillin. For Yamcha, he will go from a power level of 30,000 to 246,000, giving him a 8.2 multiplier, as this Yamcha is much more focused on his training due to having a family he cares for, and I would say that the motivation to protect them gives him a slightly higher boost than Tien, and by the end of the saga, his power level would be at 1.52 million, giving him a multiplier of 6.2. Now wouldn't be able to get his potential unlocked, as I believe that he would have his potential unlocked already when he first began his duties of protecting Guru. Nell decided that it would be best if Kami fused with him, as well as currently he wouldn't be much of use since he isn't that strong. But with the Namekian fusion, Kami could pose a threat to Frieza. Guru didn't like the idea much, but he didn't argue as Nail was right. It pains Kami to do this, but he placed his hand on Nail, fusing with him, increasing his power even more, reaching to a peak of 3 million. The Saiyans could sense the huge increase in power as they were shocked, but Goku would be glad to see that it is Kami who he senses with that immense power level. Kami and the Earthlings wouldn't waste no time heading to the Saiyans to aid them in facing Frieza. However, that is when everyone would spot 5 space pods landing on Namek, as the Saiyans would know exactly who arrived on the planet. They wouldn't be too afraid, as even though they aren't strong enough to stop the Ginyu Force, they know that the others are far more powerful to stop them easily. But just as they didn't have to worry much about the Ginyu Force, that is when Frieza would land in front of them, and he is very angry. Vegeta would want to face Frieza alone, but he is nowhere near strong enough to fight him alone even at his first form, and to even stand a chance. So he will have to fight with everyone together, as that is the only way they could even manage to survive until backup arrive. Kami and the others would sense the arrival of possible new threats, so he would send Yamcha and Tien to go deal with them, telling them that if they are enemies, don't waste any time and should just finish them off, because Frieza is the real threat. Without another word, the 2 Earthlings quickly flew off to the location of the Ginyu Force. Assuming the new arrivals of those Saiyan pods have scouters, the 2 would suppress their power levels just to have the upper hand. Arriving on Frieza's ship, they would see a bunch of Frieza's soldiers, as they would try to shoot at the Earthlings, but they would quickly dodge the attacks and take out a lot of the henchmen down very easily until the Ginyu Force made their presence known to Tien and Yamcha. Seeing their poses, they laughed at the Ginyu Force, seeing them as ridiculous. They took this as an insult greatly and prepared to fight them off using rock paper scissors as usual to see who fights first. They would tempt the Ginyu Force to fight all at once, telling them that if they fight one-on-one, they are bound to lose. This really ticked off all 5 of them, as everyone but Captain Ginyu rushed at Yamcha and Tien, and honestly it would be pretty brutal. Tien and Yamcha, with what they have experienced in the past with King Piccolo, they will not hesitate to end any threat swiftly when the situation is dire. Knowing that they need to put their actual focus on Frieza, they did not waste any time with the Ginyu Force. Tien would end Goldo and Recoome with a swift punch, each as Yamcha would take down Burter and Jace at the same time, as even his speed farly surpasses that of the fastest in the universe. As Yamcha laughed at the self-given title, Ginyu was completely dumbfounded by how fast his team was just eliminated. Without any other options, he would pretend to surrender to catch them off guard so that he could use his change body technique to get one of them, but they were not going to take any chances, as they swiftly took him out without Ginyu even getting the chance to use his change body technique. Once they swiftly ended the Ginyu Force, they would quickly head over to the others in preparation of facing Frieza, all together in hopes that they may stand a chance against him. However, it is looking grim for the Saiyans as they all try together to attack Frieza, but even with the Kaioken, they still lack the strength to overpower him, and they also lack any teamwork skills, as they never really truly fought together before, besides Goku and Raditz having little experiences together because of their year plus in training. Kami is still trying to head over to the location as he could sense the battle that is taking place, but he is worried that he may not make it there in time to save his friends. The Saiyans are trying their best to work together to take on Frieza, but it is not in their favor as Frieza is just toying with them in his base form. He begins to torture Vegeta, laughing at his pain as the others would try to help Vegeta, but Frieza would easily shoot them all back. Frieza is about to put a finishing blow on Vegeta, but that is when he is sent flying right into the sky, but will recover quickly. He grows enraged as the attack actually hurt him a lot, as he would see Kami and Krillin. He was shocked at the fact that Namekian made him bleed. Kami looked at him with a cold dead stare as he was ready to finish off Frieza. Frieza would feel a sense of fear as he would shoot multiple death beams right at the Saiyans and the human. Kami, seeing the Saiyans very injured and would no doubt die in the attack, he would fly over to deflect the death beams to save them. With that distraction, Frieza wouldn't waste time and transform right into his final form after getting just a taste of the power that Kami has. Kami's eyes widened when he sensed the power coming from Frieza, so he threw the bag of senzu beans to Krillin, telling him to give it to the Saiyans quickly. As Kami would power up to his Kaioken times 20, bringing his power level to 60 million, as he would try to fight Frieza. Kami may be the strongest and using his highest level of Kaioken, but he can only measure up to half of Frieza's full power. The fight between Frieza and Kami resembles that of Goku and Frieza in the canon timeline. Kami was never a fighter, but with Nail, his fighting instincts have returned and being a better combatant than Frieza, but would still be struggling since Frieza was much stronger than him. Kami would be pushing his limits of Kaioken, destroying his body, but thanks to his Namekian ability of regrowing limbs, he was able to keep fighting for a longer period of time compared to someone who couldn't regenerate their body parts. However, he couldn't fight Frieza off alone forever. Finally, Yamcha and Tien arrived to the others as Krillin rounded up the team to tell them his plan. He tells the Saiyans that they need to stay put for now as Kami is able to give them a power boost that would help them in defeating Frieza, as the humans would hold them off for the time being so that Kami can recover and awaken the Saiyans' potentials. Krillin would hand over the senzu beans to Goku as he and the other two humans would face Frieza to get his attention so that Kami could back off for a bit, telling him what he needs to do. Kami would heal up after eating a senzu bean and then would proceed to unlock the Saiyans' potential to give them the needed boost to fight Frieza. Now this is all speculative as we don't have much to base these potential boosts for the Saiyans, and I would like to not spend as much time around the power scaling, and since they are Saiyans, we'll just give them a complete power boost right after the fact of their potentials being awakened. So we would just say that Goku and Vegeta have around the same multiplier, being 8 right after the potential is unlocked, and would have a 10 times multiplier right after. Raz would have a 7.5 multiplier and then a 9.5 multiplier, and Nappa would have a 7 times multiplier and then a 9 times multiplier. So here would be their power levels. They would all receive a Zenkai boost after their near-death experience with Frieza. Goku and Raditz would go from 50k all the way up to 150k. Vegeta would go from 38k to 120k, and Nappa would go from 25k to 90k. So from that, the power levels here are the new power levels with each multiplier boost. After all their potentials were unlocked, hope seemed to return to all of them as they would see the humans putting on a fair match for Frieza. Even though they are much weaker than him, with their teamwork they are actually holding out their own pretty well. Kami told the Saiyans that their only chance was to all fight together, so that's what they all started to do. Nappa would suggest a Great Ape form, but Vegeta would hold off on that idea for now, as they may grow stronger but wouldn't be fast enough to fight against Frieza. Everyone begins to fight together, and it does annoy Frieza a lot, but it's still pretty difficult for him to conquer and divide, as the Z Fighters fight smart. Every time Frieza almost manages to hurt someone badly, they would somehow end up healing up. The Z Fighters do know though that they cannot do this forever since the senzu beans aren't infinite. Tien would then think about the evil containment wave that he tried to do on Demon King Piccolo a few years back, and with that idea, Kami would tell Tien where the spaceship was, as he would quickly head over to find any container that he could use while the others hold Frieza off. Things start to ramp up as Frieza is losing patience with the Z Fighters, trying to go for some more deadly attacks as he would hit both Goku and Vegeta, but when he isn't looking, Krillin would give them a senzu bean. Kami stated that he should be using the senzu beans mainly on the Saiyans as they grow stronger after almost dying, and right now that is their best chance at beating Frieza if they exploit that. Goku and Vegeta come back stronger and together use the highest level of Kaioken that they have, and finally start to do some real damage to Frieza. Without anyone here knowing how to use the Spirit Bomb, they have to solely rely on their own power to overpower Frieza, with Goku and Vegeta rushing to the front of the battle against Frieza, with the rest of the Z Fighters supporting them by distracting Frieza in any way possible. Things start to look better for our Z Fighters as Frieza was growing very upset, going to his full power. He started beating both Goku and Vegeta again, with overpowering them and with the fact that their bodies began dealing with the drawbacks of Kaioken. Frieza begins charging up a death ball, and shoots it right towards Goku and Vegeta, as together they shoot out their own respective blasts to try to hold the attack back. With their injured bodies, they are only managing to slightly slow down the attack, so the rest of the Z Fighters manage to shoot their own attacks to help out Goku and Vegeta, and they are having a beam struggle being able to hold off Frieza's attack. giving one final push as they all power up to their highest level of Kaioken at the same time, and the amount of power they managed to push the attack right back at Frieza, sending him flying away as they all powered down thinking it was over. Goku and Vegeta collapsed as their bodies were almost completely destroyed. Krillin walked over to them, giving them the last 2 senzu beans so they can be healed up. They ate the senzu beans and were starting to heal up as suddenly Raditz yelled out to Krillin to watch out as he pushed Krillin out of the way, and Raditz would be hit with a death beam by Frieza. Raditz wouldn't be killed but would be barely hanging on to life from the attack. Everyone's eyes would widen in shock seeing Frieza still alive. Very injured but alive. Tien would arrive, and seeing how bad the situation is, he would try to perform the evil containment wave out in the open, as he didn't have time to surprise Frieza with the attack. However, Frieza would spot Tien, and being with 0 patience left, he shot a death beam right at Tien, gravely injuring him and no longer able to use the evil containment wave. Goku would rush over to Raditz, seeing his barely living body, as Vegeta would tell Nappa to create a power ball so that they could transform, which he does so quickly. As Vegeta tells Goku to look at the power ball, both Goku and Vegeta are filled with rage. Goku wanted to stop Frieza for almost killing his best friend and injuring his brother badly, while Vegeta grew enraged, not wanting to die by Frieza's hand, and his pride was crushed having to work with others just in order to fight Frieza, while he wanted to go at it alone. With the power ball, they started the process of transforming into the Great Ape form, but with the rage filled up inside of them, something different happened. They didn't go into their Great Ape form but stayed in their normal bodies, but they had the power boost of the Great Ape. Their bodies bulked up and their hair spiked up a bit, and their eyes were brownish yellow. Frieza stood there confused, not exactly knowing what happened, until Nappa called the transformation they had the legendary Super Saiyan, which wasn't correct, but they did not know that at the time. Frieza grew worried, not wanting to believe what Nappa said. Even though they weren't Super Saiyans, they were both stronger than full power Frieza, and alone could stop Frieza, but they fought him together, so it would be brutal for Frieza with having to deal with 2 Saiyans stronger than him. Estimates of their power levels would be around 150 million in this transformation, with all the Zenkais they got earlier, so Frieza doesn't stand a chance in this fight, and Goku and Vegeta's rage won't allow the other to fight alone, as they both wanted Frieza to suffer. Goku still wouldn't kill Frieza this time, but with Vegeta having the power, he wouldn't hesitate and completely erase Frieza off the spot, not giving him a chance to come back later on. They would power down and be pretty exhausted from using that amount of energy, but Vegeta would be pretty excited with this newfound power, truly believing that it was the power of the Super Saiyan. They would prepare to leave Namek to head back to Earth, as suddenly they would just be teleported to Earth, as Bulma collected the Dragon Balls on Earth to wish back everyone to be on Earth. Seeing the injured, some Namekians will use their healing abilities to heal the wounded, so they can be brought back to full health, as the Namekians would thank the Z Fighters and especially Kami. They can sense Guru within Kami, knowing what has happened to him, as they ask Kami to be the next Grand Elder, which he was shocked that they asked him. He would turn it down as he is already the Guardian of Earth and cannot leave his post, as they accepted his answer and would look on to the next Namekian to be the next Grand Elder of their people, as Bulma would then use the second wish to bring the Namekians back home so they can rebuild from what Frieza and his army destroyed. And to their luck, their planet wasn't destroyed this time around. For the Saiyans, they slowly grow to like Earth and decide to stay continuing training, with Vegeta and Nappa just living out in the forest on their own, as they would just train until an unknown person from the future would eventually arrive. Last time we ended the part with the announcement of a future time traveler arriving at the current time of our Z Fighters. They all sense an immense power level appearing out of nowhere, shocking them all with how strong this person is. Even if both Goku and Vegeta used their newly acquired Ikari forms, it wouldn't be enough to stop this mystery person. They all headed over to his location as the Z Fighters would see Trunks. Everyone is confused, but there is someone who is more confused than them, and that is Future Trunks himself, seeing people like Raditz, Nappa, and Kami. He would ask Goku how he already got here since he is supposed to be in space, still as they would need to stop the arrival of Frieza and his father. If y'all haven't guessed it yet, this Future Trunks is from the original future timeline that isn't affected from this what if. Now I know most of my what ifs I tend to change the future timeline if it is more interesting like that. However, in the rare scenario, I find it more interesting to keep the future timeline same as canon compared to rewriting the future in this particular what if. Future Trunks is confused with the fact that the timeline isn't what his mother told him what happened. He did see himself as well, which caught him off guard as he shouldn't be born yet. He asked Kid Trunks who are his parents, as Kid Trunks would say that Yamcha and Bulma are his parents. His eyes widened that he technically does but also doesn't exist in this timeline. He may have traveled to the past but into an alternate timeline where he guesses his mother stayed with Yamcha. Even though he may have thought it was useless to help this timeline as it wouldn't change his, he still couldn't stand by to let this timeline be destroyed by the androids. Since he doesn't have to hide his identity, he would flat out tell the entire Z group about his identity, shocking everyone that there's a timeline where Bulma got with Vegeta, sparking a little tension between Yamcha and Vegeta, but also getting Kid Trunks to think about him being able to be as strong as Gohan. Getting that out of the way, he would then ask about their timeline's history, as Kami would step up explaining everything, with the key difference being that Piccolo was never born. Future Trunks would know about Piccolo from his talks with Gohan, as it was Piccolo who trained Gohan to become a fighter. He is also surprised to learn that Frieza was killed by Vegeta this time around, as they stated that they used the power of Super Saiyan to beat him. Future Trunks would ask to see the power as both Goku and Vegeta transformed into their Ikari state. Future Trunks would give them a look, being unimpressed, stating that the forms they have isn't the Super Saiyan form. He powers up to show them the true form as he is glowing in a yellow aura. The power coming off from Future Trunks is so intense that some can't even look at him. The Saiyans stand there stunned, seeing the true form of the legendary Super Saiyan. Future Trunks stated that Goku achieved the form on Namek to beat Frieza, and later on Vegeta was able to unlock it as well. Future Trunks would go along to tell his version of his timeline, as it does cause a little strain on the Z Fighter group, mainly between Vegeta and Nappa, since normally Vegeta did kill Nappa back in the Saiyan Saga. Moving on from learning of the potential timeline, Future Trunks dove into the new upcoming threat and Goku's death, as he gave him the antidote to his heart virus. Future Trunks would then decide to stay to help the Saiyans achieve the Super Saiyan form, as the Ikari form would not be enough to stop the androids. So, the Z Fighters would begin training for the next 3 years. After the first year of the training, Future Trunks would leave back to his timeline, as he would have helped Goku and Vegeta learn the Super Saiyan transformation, with the other Saiyans getting close to tapping into the power of Super Saiyan. The humans are quickly being surpassed by the Saiyans with their new transformations. However, they would heavily focus on mastering their Kaioken technique to try their best to keep up. With Trunks, he would be heavily focused on his training, and even using Kaioken at his young age. It does hurt him a lot with the fact that he isn't used to that amount of strain, but knowing that Gohan would soon have a form that would make him much stronger than him, Trunks would be driven even more to train harder, even training with the Saiyans from time to time. The Z Fighters are split, with the Saiyans training together and Kami training with the humans, with both groups training together from time to time. After the 2 years, both Raditz and Nappa also learned the Super Saiyan transformation, with Gohan being close but not truly getting a grasp of the transformation. Now power levels are basically useless at this point of the story, with the numbers being too high, with the Saiyans being around at least 1 billion when they're in their Super Saiyan transformation. So going in order from strongest to weakest would be Goku and Vegeta at the top, being the strongest, followed by Raditz, Nappa, Kami, Gohan, Krillin, Tien, Yamcha, and Trunks. The Z Fighters are all nearby the city that the androids would attack, but that is when things are worse, as the moment South City is attacked, they can sense another city being attacked as well. They are confused with the change in what they were told from Future Trunks, but with no time to argue, the group was split up, with the Saiyans staying in South City, and the humans plus Kami would go check out what is going on in the other city. They still can't sense the androids, so both groups would have to search the city separately. The Saiyans would be able to find the androids, but it wouldn't just be 2 androids, but actually 3. The Saiyans would face Dr. Gero, Android 19, and Android 16. Dr. Gero was pretty happy to have the Saiyans explaining everything that he has done. He had a secret drone that spied on the Saiyans and learned about the time traveler and the future timeline, so he decided to continue to spy on the Saiyans, watching them train and collected data on the Super Saiyan transformation. He also would reveal that he unleashed more androids attacking another city so that he could split the group, and announce that he is glad that they sent a weaker team to face a threat that was stronger than themselves. Before the Saiyans could flee, a fight would break out. Android 16 would face Goku, as he was built to mainly kill Son Goku. Android 19 would fight Vegeta, and Raditz would fight Dr. Gero. Meanwhile, both Nappa and Gohan would have to quickly head over to the other group to help them with this other threat. The humans arrive at the other city, seeing an impure destruction, as they would also split up to find the android, but this time the unlucky one is Trunks, as he finds Android 13, but already absorbed 14 and 15. Trunks would be a bit scared being the first fight he is in, but he doesn't back down and tries to attack Android 13. but any hits he land on Android 13 doesn't even phase him. Even with tapping into Kaioken times 1, as Android 13 would just slap him, sending him crashing down into the city, as the other humans and Kami would surround Trunks, seeing Android 13. Kami would go fight Android 13 but wouldn't be doing much until he goes into Kaioken times 50, as he starts to actually harm Android 13, but his body would be taking a lot of damage as his body can only take so much. Tien and Krillin would quickly join Kami as Yamcha stayed with his son until Trunks got back up saying that they needed to help out as well, as they would join in. Together they would fight Android 13 using teamwork and advanced techniques to stand a chance to beat Android 13, but it was still a tough fight for them. Eventually Nappa and Gohan would arrive in time to help out the second group with fighting Android 13. Back to the Saiyans, things are looking pretty good. The Saiyans are having the upper hand, but it's not exactly one-sided. Seeing the Z Fighters training, Dr. Gero did upgrade all his androids, including himself, to get strong, with the only true challenge being Android 16 for Goku. And this time around, Goku does not have the heart virus thanks to Raditz being around making sure that Goku takes his medicine. Seeing that they may not win, Dr. Gero would go up to his backup plan, telling Android 16 to make his move now. Hearing this, Android 16 would grab a hold of Goku as he would begin to self-destruct, catching the attention of Vegeta and Raditz. A huge explosion erupts, blinding everyone and giving Dr. Gero the chance to flee. As the dust clears, we see that Android 19 was destroyed. Vegeta and Raditz damaged a bit, but not as bad as Goku as he is barely alive, as they have to quickly get him a sensu bean. But it was with the humans as they flee to them, not even thinking about Dr. Gero, thinking he got killed by the explosion as well. They would arrive to see the others still in combat with Android 13, as some were hurt badly, like Trunks, Gohan, and Krillin. Kami would spot the others seeing Goku in critical condition, as he rushed over to give Goku a sensu bean and told the Saiyans to fight the android, as he would restore the others. Goku would get a huge boost in power after that near-death experience, as he would take the front of the battle fighting Android 13. Everyone would try to gang up on him as they would begin to push him back. Then Android 13 would begin charging up an attack to throw at the Z Fighters until he is attacked from the back, as future Trunks returned already in his Super Saiyan form, as he managed to cut Android 13 in half since he was distracted, telling everyone that this is their chance to destroy him, as they all charge up their respective blasts, all hitting Android 13 at the same time, completely destroying him. Away, Dr. Gero managed to get back to his lab, as he would unleash Android 17 and 18, demanding them to kill the Z Fighters and Goku, but just like in the original timeline, they would kill him instantly. They didn't really care about fighting the Z Fighters just yet, as they were more bored and wanted to explore the world, as they left the lab and began their journey around the area, just doing casual things, but also causing chaos too. In the last part, Android 17 and 18 were released and went out in the world, while future Trunks returned to this timeline after helping the group with fighting Android 13. Future Trunks would be very confused on who this android is, as it's not one he has saw before, as the Saiyans would be describing the other androids they fought, but they too weren't similar to ones that future Trunks was familiar with. Then Raditz stated that Dr. Gero spied on them and learned about the time traveler and became extra prepared for the Z Fighters as he knew when they were coming. So with that decided, they now had to look for the other androids but had no clue where to look for them as they could not sense their energy, so all they could do in the meantime is wait. However, Kami sensed something wrong on the planet as he flew off on his own. The group decided to stay put, but Vegeta did not like that as he flew off wanting a real challenge and wanting to fight the androids himself. Future Trunks would try to follow him but would just get punched in the gut like in canon. I really don't see them building a connection in this timeline with the fact that Vegeta doesn't really have any attachments to Earth, so he hardly softens up. They all go to Capsule Corp to wait it out until they learn something. Here, I don't think they would bring up Dr. Gero again, so Bulma couldn't help them with her knowledge on the scientist, so for now his secret lair and this timeline cell would be safe for now. But also, no self-destruct button would be made for the androids. Kami would end up in the city meeting Cell, but before he could absorb anyone since he didn't have to fight Android 17 and 18. Now I don't think Cell would have gotten that much stronger with absorbing a few regular citizens, so I would say that for now, the power levels between Cell and Kami are pretty close, but Kami having a good lead ahead as of right now. Kami would eventually tap into his Kaioken transformation to begin overpowering Cell, until Cell would figure out how to use the Kaioken. Honestly, I think Cell would know how to use the Kaioken since he does have Goku's DNA, and would no doubt have some data of the technique from Goku. Having DNA of Goku, I think Cell would get the hang of Kaioken relatively fast and even push himself to get to times 50, which is Kami's max. Since Cell has Piccolo's DNA, so he could also regrow limbs, but even better since he can regrow from a single cell. The fight would most likely end in a draw. Kami is close to beating Cell, but Cell would manage to absorb a bit of Kami, like how he did with Piccolo, allowing him to heal up a bit and weaken Piccolo, as Cell would have leave Kami be and go hunt for the androids, as he does tell Kami his plan of becoming perfect. Android 17 and 18 would definitely end up at Kame's house, wanting to look for Goku but not finding anyone since they are all at Capsule Corp. However, who does end up passing by is Vegeta, as he is attacked by the androids, being caught off guard, not sensing their power levels, and he didn't think they were androids since they looked pretty normal. A fight would break out, leaving it to be a one-on-one with Vegeta facing Android 17, and honestly, it wouldn't be looking good for Vegeta. Since the androids were upgraded and fed more data, they became stronger with knowing about the Super Saiyan transformation and their group training the 3 years beforehand. Vegeta wouldn't even get a chance to try to attack 17, as the others would sense Vegeta's life force would be decreasing, so they would all go to his location to see what is going on. 17 would practically be torturing Vegeta until the rest of the group would arrive to witness the horrific sight. Even though they did have the numbers against the androids, I don't think they are strong enough to stop them. The only person not around is Kami currently, but even then it would be tough. That fight would most likely go on to be like how it went normally when the Z Fighters first met the androids, but with the addition of a few characters. Seeing how they don't stand a chance, both Krillin and Tien use the Kaioken powered solar flare to bind the androids, giving them all the time they need to retreat to figure out their next move, as fighting them head on isn't the right move. Unbeknownst to them, Cell was hiding as he sensed the battle going down and decided to head over to see what was going on, to see his siblings that he must absorb. When the Z Fighters left, he would sneak up behind the blinded androids and absorb them both, instantly becoming his perfect form. Still being the same Cell from the original story, he would want to announce a tournament, which is when the Z Fighters would learn about Cell, especially when Kami meets up with them and tells them what Cell told him. Now with a week to prepare, the Z Fighters would train up using the time chamber, and with Kami being much stronger and a better guardian, he would have upgraded the time chamber to not have a 2-year time limit. However, now the people that go into the time chamber would be very different, mainly with Future Trunks and Vegeta, as they won't be going in together, as this Vegeta lacks the emotional connection with Future Trunks, as Vegeta would still go first, but this time with Raditz instead of Future Trunks. The good thing here is that no Z Fighters would be in danger and already all be on the lookout, as Goku doesn't have instant transmission in this timeline to save them. For this duo's training, I could see it being more beneficial for Vegeta, training with Raditz rather than Future Trunks. However, I don't think they would get to grade 4 Super Saiyan. Next group to go in would be Goku, Gohan, and Future Trunks, with the help of some of Bulma's capsule technology to bring in extra food. Goku felt bad that Future Trunks didn't go in with Vegeta, and knowing about the future timeline, he knows that Future Trunks would need to get stronger, so he offered to bring him in too. Their 1-year training would be much more efficient, as Future Trunks would be told about Goku's plan on making Gohan much stronger, as he would believe that Gohan could be the strongest as well. Future Trunks could even help Gohan push further, telling him about the dark future timeline he came from, as Gohan would then think about how he failed in another timeline because he wasn't strong enough. No doubt all three of them would come out in Super Saiyan grade 4 easily, and maybe even having Gohan have a bit more experience with the Super Saiyan true transformation. Now for the remainder of the Z Fighters, I don't see Nappa going in, as he is already much older compared to everyone else and doesn't want to rush his aging process. His age is never confirmed, at least to my knowledge, but most people say he is in his 50s when he first appears in the Saiyan Saga. And going off of that means he's around 30 years older than both Goku and Vegeta, as they're in their 20s during the Saiyan Saga. So yeah, I don't see him wanting to go in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber. Seeing Gohan go, Trunks would definitely want to go in as well. Seeing the eagerness of Trunks, Kami would go in with Trunks and Yamcha so they can get some boost in their training. Kami would also unlock Trunks' potential to give him a power boost, as he would also get a better hang of Kaioken. As Krillin and Tien are left to go in together. After all that training, we would go into the Cell games. Now honestly, this could be over very quickly. I do think Goku would still want to fight Cell just to see how strong he is. This fight would be pretty similar, but Goku would be much stronger than Cell, but would also hold back as he gives up and chooses Gohan to fight next. It shocks everyone besides Future Trunks and even Gohan, as he isn't scared this time around. He would face Cell in his Super Saiyan form at first, but would then show his Super Saiyan 2 transformation to everyone, shocking them seeing how much stronger he is. With knowing the future timeline, I think that would be more than enough for Gohan to tap into the form without needing the death of Android 16, since he is not even here and already blew himself up in the last part. Also, not being blinded with rage, he wouldn't be playing with Cell, just wanting to hurt him, but actually aim to try to finish him off as soon as possible. And another positive is that Cell does not create Cell Juniors to hurt the other Z fighters, so that issue would not happen. Gohan would also know that Cell can regenerate. He makes sure that his final blow would be his strongest so that Cell cannot regenerate. Gohan punches Cell strong enough to the point where he puked up Android 18, as this was his moment as he charges up a full power Kamehameha wave, erasing Cell completely and not being able to come back this time. Everyone would celebrate and be glad that the threats are over. Kami would have collected the Dragon Balls to wish back all the people Cell has killed, as Krillin would still make his wish for Android 18 and start off a special relationship with her in this timeline. Continuing on, future Trunks would actually prepare to leave back to his timeline as he would say goodbye to his mother, his younger self, Gohan and Goku. His bond with Vegeta is never formed as Vegeta is still pretty cold in this timeline, not having any earthly attachment like he did in the normal timeline, which future Trunks didn't like, but there was nothing he could do, but was glad to have met Goku and Gohan. Seeing the hero that Goku was called, and how his mentor used to be before the androids attacked, and future Trunks does see his effect on Gohan. In this timeline, seeing that Gohan could focus on his dream of being a scholar, but also he does see that Gohan still plans to focus on his training to not be weak for another threat, as Gohan did think about the future timeline a lot. He would return to his timeline and easily beat both threats of the androids and Cell with ease. After his departure, the Z Fighters would continue on living their lives but also still continue on training for the next 7 years. However, in the secret lab of Dr. Gero, this timeline Cell still remains and continues to grow without being disturbed or destroyed. So last we left off, Gohan ended up defeating and stopping Perfect Cell, allowing for Earth to be in peace for the next few years. Let's get into what everyone has been up to since then. For the Sun family, Gohan, Goku, and Raditz all continued to train during the 7 years, as Gohan would not slack off this time around, always thinking about his future counterpart. He still does follow his dream of being a scholar, but continues to train at the same time, finding balance between the two, and still remaining to be the strongest on the planet. Goku and Chi-Chi would have another child, that being Goten like normal. Goten would also be training with Goku and Gohan, growing pretty strong at his young age, even mastering Super Saiyan. With Raditz, he settled down with Launch after she gave up on chasing Tien, and they would end up getting together 2 years before the Buu Saga. To the Brief family, Yamcha actually settled down and slowed down with his training and spending more time with Bulma, as they had another child, a daughter named Bulla. Meanwhile, with Trunks, he stayed motivated in training, joining Gohan and his family with their training. Even though he was really behind and struggled to keep up, his rivalry with Gohan made him not stop in his training, and he became the strongest human on Earth. Krillin and 18 got married and even had a kid together. Kami continued being the guardian of Earth and continued with his training mainly on his own. Vegeta and Nappa continued to stay together for a bit until Nappa decided to go out on his own to live a more peaceful life on Earth, while Vegeta continued to stay isolated. He never really went to spend time with any of the other Z Fighters and only cared to show up if there is a threat or a fight to deal with. Let's say the whole school mini saga with Gohan would be pretty similar, just with the inclusion of a grown-up Trunks. Hercule wouldn't be insanely popular, but I would say Videl still gets into fighting as normal. However, another difference is that Gohan and Trunks would both become Great Saiyan Man 1 and 2 in this timeline, and when Gohan would have a romance with Videl, Trunks would have one with Erasa. Next would be the upcoming World Tournament, and everyone would decide that it would be fun to participate in the tournament, so most of the Z Fighters would sign up, excluding Kami, Vegeta, Nappa, and Yamcha. But they are around. With Trunks being born much earlier this time around, and being the same age as Gohan, he would not be in the kids division, as Goten would win that tournament very easily, as he doesn't really have any competition, especially since Bulla here is just a human and wouldn't be into training. The Supreme Kai and Kibito would attend as well, but Kami would spot them instantly, revealing their true identity to the shock of everyone, as then the Supreme Kai would tell them the reason for their arrival, and the potential threat of Babidi and Majin Buu. Things would play out the same with Babidi's minion taking Gohan's energy, but this time around, with him being much stronger than in canon, they had more than enough to spawn Buu. The Z Fighters would follow the minions and find Babidi's hideout. Seeing how they were getting close and needed a bit more time, he sent out Dabura and would see what else he could do. Sensing a lot of evil energy coming from Vegeta, he decided to put him under mind control, and honestly, Vegeta would fall under the spell, allowing him to be taken control of to get a power boost. Once he fell under the control, he instantly went to attack both Nappa and Raditz. Seeing the situation at hand, Kami would say to help the other fighters from Vegeta. When the Z fighters arrived at Babidi's hideout, the boar would use his Stone Spit attack, hitting Kibito, Yamcha, and Krillin, leaving only Goku, Gohan, and Trunks to enter inside the hideout. Honestly, the fights wouldn't be too hard, having Trunks take Vegeta's original matchup, which he would win easily. And Gohan never stopping in his training, he would beat Dabura this time around, but that wouldn't change much as Buu is still released from his egg. Fighting Buu would be a bit different. Having both Goku and Gohan around could make things a bit easier, but I don't think it would be enough to beat Majin Buu completely yet. With Trunks aiding them however he can with his Kaioken power up, they do begin to have the edge over Buu, until they are interrupted by Majin Vegeta, as he attacks Goku, sending him flying away, and with Goku out of the picture, Buu would begin to beat on Gohan and Trunks. Seeing his son in trouble, Yamcha would jump in to save him as Krillin joins in too, as together they fight Majin Buu to hold them off. Majin Buu was getting annoyed as he would shoot a full power Kamehameha wave at Yamcha, Krillin, and the injured Gohan and Trunks. Supreme Kai and Kibito being both near Gohan and Trunks, he used his Kai Kai technique to save them to teleport all four of them to the Supreme Kai planet, but sadly, Yamcha and Krillin are both killed. When Goku finally recovers, he senses the death of both Krillin and Yamcha. He also cannot sense Gohan's energy, as he assumes Gohan is dead too. He grows in rage once he sees Vegeta, blaming him for taking him away from the fight to help his friends. Remember, here they are never really friends nor rivals, as they never grew that bond in this timeline. Goku powers up, telling Vegeta he will show him a transformation that he achieved during the 7 years. It isn't perfected, but Goku does not want to waste any more time with Vegeta, knowing that Buu is on the loose. Goku begins powering up as he shakes the entire planet, as everyone can feel the immense power emitting from Goku's location. His yells can be heard all over. His hair grows longer, and his power explodes, as he shows his new transformation that he calls Super Saiyan 3. Majin Vegeta just smiles grimly, looking happy to see this competition. They begin to fight it out while Majin Buu would be left out to roam the planet unchecked, and with no one to stop him. And eventually Buu would kill off Babidi. With most of the Z fighters being dead or gone, the only ones left would be Kami, Raditz, Nappa, and Tien. Sensing everything that is going on, he rounds up the surviving members and relatives to bring them all to the safety of the lookout, as he would think about what they could do. The fusion dance would never be an option, as Goku did not stay in the other world for the last 7 years, since he never died during the Cell Games. With their options very limited and not sure what they could do, this is when King Kai would step in, notifying the Z fighters on the lookout about the Supreme Kai, saving both Gohan and Trunks, as they are currently starting their training with the Supreme Kai, just asking them to hold off Buu until then. Kami can sense the fight going on between Goku and Vegeta, so afar he, Tien, Raditz, and Nappa, and even Goten heals up, and they would go off to hold off Majin Buu as long as they can. With Goku fighting Majin Vegeta, he wouldn't try to talk Vegeta out of fighting, since he isn't on a time limit, and would just fight through the entire fight until he beats Majin Vegeta, which I don't doubt that he would win with Super Saiyan 3. Goku would knock him out and would then begin heading over to the others as they are confronting Majin Buu. Honestly, I do see Tien and Nappa dying by being turned into candy before Goku could fully arrive there. And when he does arrive, Majin Buu is probably screwed. In the canon timeline, he could not beat Goku in his Super Saiyan 3 state, and Goku only stopped fighting him because he did not want to waste his 24-hour time limit on Earth. And with Goku not being dead or having a time limit, he could fight Buu without having to worry about that. Now the big question is if Goku would spare Buu in this timeline. Thinking about all he has been through in this entire what if, I do think he would end up killing Majin Buu completely, but still wanting him to be reincarnated like in canon. I do see him wanting to keep Buu alive, but with all he has done, the people he has killed, him already being upset from Vegeta about his son's death, Goku still doesn't know that Gohan is actually alive, and the fact that most of the other Z fighters wouldn't want Buu to live, Goku would just have to finish Buu off. After a good fight with Majin Buu, Goku would power up a full power Kamehameha wave, shooting it right at Buu and completely erasing him, not leaving a piece of Buu to regenerate. After the threat is dealt with, they would collect the Dragon Balls to wish back everyone who has died, and this is when Goku would learn that his son is not dead but just training. They would also wish to have Vegeta be freed from the spell under the Babidi, and this is when Vegeta decides to finally leave Earth, to go out on his own as he feels like an outsider to the entire Z team, not really having his own place on Earth. He would look at Nappa one last time as he was the only person he had some type of bond with, but even Nappa was able to find his own place on Earth. Gohan and Trunks continued their training even after a threat was dealt with, in case another threat like Buu were to show up. They would use the Z sword in the training, and I would see Gohan giving Trunks the sword, referring back to future Trunks since he had a sword too. Trunks would break the sword during the training, releasing the Elder Kai, and to thank them, he would do the ritual to unlock their hidden potential, and they would both get the mystic form. But eventually, Gohan would return back to Earth, while Trunks would stay a little longer as compared to Gohan, he is fully committed to his training, while Gohan wanted to balance his training and his true dream. Trunks stayed a little longer, wanting to grow as strong as possible, to catch up to Gohan as he learned the Kai Kai technique, but he too would be going back to Earth as he has been away for quite some time. After all that, everyone would begin to settle down and enjoy their time of peace while they can, as unknown to them, far away, a purple cat would soon be awakened for his search for the Super Saiyan God. In the last part, Goku managed to beat Majin Buu and save the world from being destroyed, allowing the Z Fighters to continue to live on in peace. It's been about a year since Majin Buu as they continue to live on with their lives, as Beerus would finally awaken. Supreme Kai and Elder Kai would learn of his return and would want to warn the others this time around, as I don't think they would have thought of Goku wanting to fight Beerus, as I do feel like that was the main reason why they didn't warn Goku exactly, or the others right away in the canon timeline. However, Goku isn't exactly how he was normally, and hearing how big of a threat Beerus is, he would want to be more precautious. Goku and some of the selected others would be notified about Beerus, however, none of them would know that Beerus would eventually be heading right towards Earth to look for the Super Saiyan God. It would be Bulma's party where everyone would be attending, as then they would be surprised to see Beerus when he arrives. Now the only people who do know about Beerus and Whis would be Goku, Gohan, Kami, Trunks, and Raditz, so when they do see him they would be shocked, and grew a bit worried and did not want to upset him. Being at a party, Beerus and Whis would invite himself and enjoy himself at the party and eat all the good food, and without Majin Buu to eat the pudding, Beerus would never grow enraged. At least not right now. Eventually Beerus would bring up about the Super Saiyan God for the first time, but no one really knew about that until they thought about using the Dragon Balls to use Shenron to learn about the Super Saiyan God. Shenron would explain the origin of the Super Saiyan God and how to perform the ritual. Now with the Saiyans on Earth currently is Goku, Raditz, Nappa, Gohan, and Goten, as they are one Saiyan short until Videl, who would reveal that she is pregnant, and with that extra hybrid Saiyan, they would perform the ritual on Gohan, as he is the strongest in the group currently, and Gohan would become the Super Saiyan God. But when the ritual was over, Gohan's appearance didn't change. Everyone thought the ritual didn't work, but Beerus stated that it did, with Gohan now having God Ki within him, as Gohan would say that he can now sense Beerus' Ki, which stuns him, with Gohan having the mystic form, which basically makes it that this transformation is a combination of all his other transformations, and so having Super Saiyan God on top of that. He would just grow stronger with this mystic form. Now the fight would begin, as Gohan and Beerus would be fighting all around the planet, as their fight shook the entire planet. Beerus would be very impressed with Gohan's strength, as this fight is more intense than the original one. They eventually would end up fighting in the atmosphere in space, as Gohan is getting a bit exhausted, as Beerus would then threaten to destroy the planet if he doesn't win. And this pushes Gohan further and enraged. Beerus would create a death ball to throw at the planet, as Gohan would try his best to hold the attack back, but it is too much as he begins to get engulfed by the attack. Gohan would get the scene like Goku where everyone would call out his name, as this is his first time expressing his rageful side, as he explodes, erupting the attack, as when he emerges he has a new appearance. Beerus is shocked to see that Gohan would grow even stronger even after the Super Saiyan God ritual, as Gohan would push himself to reach the beast form. He goes to attack Beerus a lot more seriously, taking Beerus' threat very serious. Their fight goes on even further and longer, as Beerus is not complaining, as he is enjoying himself with this fight, as it is much more promising than what he thought. Eventually Gohan would pass out as he pushed himself far beyond anything he has done before, as Beerus would catch him saying that he is the strongest person he has ever fought. Beerus would bring him back down to earth as he told the others that he was satisfied with the fight from Gohan, and even offered to train some people that wanted to train with them, which people like Goku, Raditz, and Trunks take up the offer, with even Gohan joining in from time to time. Now, time would pass as honestly nothing would happen for the time being. The Resurrection F movie would not happen as recently their army has been reformed by Vegeta. Back when he left Earth, as he did not have a place on Earth, he traveled through space wanting to find a place for himself. Going from planet to planet, he was trying to find a place or purpose for himself. Vegeta wandered for a while and he was kinda lost and alone. Then one day he is met with some Frieza soldiers terrorizing the planet he was on, and Vegeta was not having any of it. He fought them pretty easily and used them to find the base of the remaining Frieza soldiers. He learns that Frieza's father, King Cold, took back control of the army after his son's death, and has been wanting to find the person who killed them. Vegeta smirks, saying that he killed Frieza and he wants them to take him to King Cold so that he could tell him himself. Vegeta and the soldiers he spared head over to King Cold as Vegeta appears in front of him, looking all cocky. Cold is happy to see Vegeta again, but quickly frowns when Vegeta, all smug-like, will tell King Cold that he was the one that killed Frieza. Cold instantly goes to attack Vegeta, trying to punch him, but Vegeta stood there and tanked the punch like it was nothing, as this shocked King Cold. Vegeta grabs King Cold and pierces his chest with a single punch, as this kills him. Vegeta just mocks him, stating that he didn't even have to use his Super Saiyan form to beat him. The army would witness this scene as Vegeta would announce that he would be the new leader of this army, and no longer will be called the Frieza Force, but now the Saiyan regime. Vegeta wouldn't be as ruthless as Frieza or Cold, but not exactly good either. He still keeps control of the planets that Frieza has, but treats them a bit less harshly. Remember, this Vegeta never really changed or gone through any character development, so this Vegeta is pretty much the same as when we first met Vegeta back in the Saiyan Saga. Maybe like his Namek Saga counterpart. Vegeta, now being called King Vegeta, would wander through space conquering planets under his rule, just not doing as much killing as Frieza would do. He finally found his place in the universe, but he knows it does feel a bit lonely. His army doesn't really like him, but he doesn't care. Even with this newfound rule, he still felt contained as he knew he couldn't go too far, or possibly attack the Earth as he could be defeated by the Z fighters. So he remained to stay away from them for the time being. He would make his army explore the edge of the universe to see if they can find anything interesting, as they would come across planet Vampa, scanning to see two living beings on the planet, being Broly and Paragus. He tells his soldiers to save them and bring them back as he would like to meet them. Paragus would ask about the Frieza Force and if Frieza is still around, but that is when he learns everything that he has missed and that they are called the Saiyan regime and their new leader is King Vegeta's son. This surprises but also angers Paragus as he's wanted to get revenge on King Vegeta for what he did to him and his son back those years ago. But now only Vegeta remains, so he decides he will focus his revenge on Vegeta for now. Paragus and Broly would join the Saiyan regime and would come face to face with Vegeta. Vegeta smiles, being happy to see more Saiyans, and he really aims on trying to turn these Saiyans on his side without knowing Paragus' hatred towards his father. Seeing Broly, Vegeta would want to begin training with him to have him grow strong and even learn the Super Saiyan transformation. He plans to grow Broly strong so even if he crossed paths with the Z fighters, he and his army could fight them. However, when Vegeta wanted to train with Broly, Paragus would warn Vegeta of Broly's immense strength, showing him the color he made Broly and the remote. Vegeta grabbed the control and broke it, saying he doesn't care as he will fight Broly at his strongest, not aware of the hidden power that he could unleash. In the last part, we went through the Battle of Gods arc, and what Vegeta has been up to since he left the planet after the Majin Buu Saga. Vegeta destroyed the remote that would control Broly's collar that Paragus made for him, which shocked him as he knew how bad this is. Vegeta tried to begin training with Broly, but Broly wouldn't really want to fight back, which annoyed Vegeta. He would begin to push Broly around, trying to anger him, as there will be a time where Broly slowly starts to get angry, but he would quickly be calmed down by his father, as Paragus commanded Broly to not lose control. Vegeta would get angered by Paragus preventing his son to lash out, so he would punch Paragus in the stomach from stepping in too many times. Vegeta puts his hand out ready to shoot a ki blast at Paragus, as that is when Broly would grab his hand tightly. Vegeta is taken aback by this bold move and surprised he can feel the pressure from Broly. He powers up to his Super Saiyan form and still couldn't loosen the grip of Broly, and he was slowly starting to be impressed. Vegeta powered up once more into his Super Saiyan 2 form and is barely able to break free from Broly's grasp, and he can see how strong Broly is by just what he has witnessed with this interaction. He powered down and walked away, being a bit pleased at seeing Broly's potential, so he did not push onwards and left the two alone. But Vegeta did take notice that if Broly is that strong with barely powering up, then it wouldn't be wise to make him go all out yet, as in Vegeta's strongest form, which is Super Saiyan 2, Broly would still be able to contend against him without ever powering up. So he knows that Broly has to have some type of special hidden power within him. So, for the time being, Vegeta would wander out in space alone to grow stronger any way he can, so that he can stay ahead of Broly, while he left them on one of his many planets he has conquered. Paragus recovered from the blow as he worked on fixing the remote on Broly's collar, as he wanted Broly to fight Vegeta there, but without a collar to calm him down, then Paragus would end up dying too, so he decided to play the long game for his revenge. Back to the main group of Z fighters, plenty of them went to Beerus' planet to train, people like Goku, Raditz, and Trunks, with others like Gohan and Kami joining in from time to time. Trunks is in a relationship with Erasa, but I do see it that she would allow him to be gone for long periods of time, especially with knowing all that he does to try to protect the world. One day while the three of them are all training on Beerus' planet, that is when Champa and Vados would arrive on the planet, and then the Z fighters would learn about the multiple universes. Beerus and Champa would have their bickering on which universe is better, and Goku would still suggest a tournament between the fighters from both universes. They liked the idea and gave each other time to form a team of 5 members. So for Universe 7 right off the bat, Goku, Raditz, and Trunks would be on the team. Even though Trunks in this timeline is just a human, he has been training a lot and with gods now. Whis has taken a special liking to Trunks, mainly with the fact that even if he isn't a Saiyan, he still keeps training to try his best to catch up to Gohan. The last 2 remaining fighters would be Gohan and Kami, as they were the only 2 big choices left to pick from, as the other Z fighters somewhat slowed down in their training. With the team being formed, they will all head over to the tournament battlegrounds, as seeing the Universe 6 team shocks quite a few of them. Raditz would be very curious about how the Saiyans are in the other universe, as he would go talk to Kaba. Goku and Raditz would also notice Frost, as he looks very similar to Frieza, and hearing he is a good guy in the other universe, they find it hard to believe, as they keep their guards up. Our group is pretty intrigued by the other universe and wondered what else is different, asking if there is an Earth or Namek in their universe. Before they can get any answers, the tournament would begin, as here is the lineup of Universe 7, starting with Goku, Kami, Raditz, Trunks, and Gohan. Now the first matchup of Goku vs Botama would go on the same with little to no differences, but onto the Frost fight, I can still see Goku allowing Frost to go into his final form, as he would like to fight him at his strongest, remembering the time he fought Frieza, but not alone, as Vegeta was there as they fought him together. Goku is stronger and Frost would have a tougher time, but I can still see that he would manage to poison Goku with his hidden needle. So move on to the next round, but Kami would instantly see this. The next matchup would be Kami vs Frost, and this fight would be very different. Kami at this point would be much stronger than King Piccolo, and he also has Kaioken to boost his power even further. During the previous match, Kami really paid attention to Frost and saw how he took out someone as powerful as Goku. Kami would power up to Kaioken times 30 to be able to outmaneuver Frost with ease, grabbing his arm where the needle is and revealing the truth to the announcer of the tournament. After that reveal, Frost would be disqualified and taken out of the tournament, and Goku would be brought back into the tournament. A difference here is that Kami remained in the tournament, unlike how Piccolo was eliminated. So moving on to the next matchup, Kami would be facing Vegeta, and honestly he would probably lose here. Kami isn't really the type of fighter to trash talk their opponent mid-match, so no matter what he threw at Vegeta, it wouldn't phase him, and Kami would just tire himself out before even figuring out how to beat Vegeta. Next from Universe 7 would be Raditz, and he would definitely say something mean to Vegeta here, leading to revealing Vegeta's weakness, and the rest of the fight would go on pretty similar to how it did when Vegeta fought Vegeta. In this timeline, Raditz would be filling in the role of what Vegeta did in the normal timeline in this tournament, so with that said, Raditz would be then facing off against Kaba. Raditz would be very interested in the same from Universe 6, and would be doing the same thing that Vegeta did when he fought Kaba. Raditz would then train Kaba during this match to allow him to learn the Super Saiyan transformation, motivating Kaba the same way Vegeta did by threatening him. Kaba would be pushed enough to achieve the Super Saiyan transformation, and their fight truly began, as Raditz went into his Super Saiyan form as well, as they began fighting. The fight is intense as Raditz holds back as much as he can to make the fight as even as possible, but eventually Kaba did grow tired as Raditz would then knock him out, but before he did, he would give Kaba some praise, and this would form a mentor/student bond between the two Saiyans. Moving to the final fighter from Universe 6. Hit would step into the arena preparing to fight Raditz. Raditz would get too cocky as he thinks Universe 6 has no strong fighters, and once seeing how Hit would get into his fighting position, he would think that this would be an easy fight. Raditz stayed in his Super Saiyan transformation as when the match started, Raditz would rush into Hit, but before he could even notice, Raditz was struck as he was sent flying out of the arena into his base form completely knocked out. Everyone is shocked as they didn't even see Hit move and wonder how he even attacked Raditz. While Kami kept his composure and was quiet, thinking to himself, Trunks would be next to fight Hit, but honestly this wouldn't go so well. Trunks would be in his ultimate form as he would begin to try to fight Hit, but he would try to stay as far away from Hit as possible. Trunks would shoot a few ki blasts to try to keep some distance, but each ki blast kept missing as Hit would just dodge each attack, but Trunks couldn't even see Hit move. Trunks is left with no option but to try to attack Hit, but that would ultimately end up with Trunks being sent right out of the arena. Kami would then come down to the conclusion that Hit has some time stopping ability, and advised Gohan that his only possible chance to beat Hit is to become faster than him. Gohan would be next stepping in to the arena ready to face Hit. And the second the match started, Gohan took Kami's advice and powered up to his max, going into his beast form he acquired from the last part, and just for extra precaution, he stacked Kaioken times 10 on top of his beast form. What he was doing was dangerous and couldn't hold the form for long, so he went right to attack Hit. And when Hit tried to use his time skip ability, Gohan would easily break through the time skip and is able to attack Hit. Without his time skip ability, Hit doesn't really stand a chance. Gohan would just tank a punch or two by Hit, but then eventually Hit would get eliminated from Gohan's overwhelming strength. Gohan powers down and collapsed on the floor from all the strain his body just had to endure, and the fact that this was his first time he used Kaioken. But he did win the tournament for Universe 7. While Beerus is gloating to Champa, that is when Zeno would arrive, scaring the two gods, while the others would learn about who Zeno is. Goku would be a bit friendly with Zeno and even suggest a tournament between every universe. Zeno would eventually head out, and then the two teams would return to their respective universes, now thinking about all the possible strong fighters from other universes as they get more motivated to grow stronger. Especially Trunks. He felt disappointed in himself after losing to Hit, and not really being able to show how strong he has gotten. Away we see Vegeta traveling planet to planet, training and growing as strong as he can, but also seeing if he can learn anything that could possibly help him surpass Broly and even the others on Earth. Continuing from where we left off, the Z Fighters train even more intensely. Mainly Goku, Raditz, Gohan, Trunks, and Kami, with the other humans slowly starting to pick up on their training again after hearing about the other universes and strong fighters. We go into the future timeline as we see future Trunks fighting against someone as the smoke clears to reveal that the person he is fighting appears to look like Gohan. Even with Kaioken to stack on his Super Saiyan forms, future Trunks is not strong enough to stop Gohan, and it's hard to fight this threat as he does look like his old mentor who passed away. Future Bulma would still die, and future Trunks would have no other choice but to go back to the past to ask for some help from the other Z Fighters. He is barely able to make it to his time machine and to travel to the past before passing out, as present timeline Bulma would hear the explosion and see an injured future Trunks. Bulma would see all this play out and asks her mother why her older brother is very injured. Bulma wouldn't explain right away as she is focused on treating future Trunks and trying to call the others that are currently on Beerus' planet. Getting the call from Bulma, both Gohan and Trunks would use their Kai Kai technique to teleport all 5 of them to Earth right away and instantly see future Trunks. Now seeing him again makes Trunks a bit uneasy, as they are kind of the same person, but he also feels a tad bit jealous as well, knowing that this version of him has the potential of Gohan, and seeing him be this weak makes him angry. Bulma is confused as now she is seeing 2 of her brothers, but she gets sent away before she can get any explanation. When Future Trunks wakes up, he sees his alternate version of himself and asks what happened, as Trunks would just scoff and walk away. Future Trunks would finally get his bearings and tell everyone what happened to his timeline, and talked about fighting an evil version of Gohan, which shocked them all, and also explained how he wasn't strong enough to stop him. Not wanting to hear Future Trunks anymore, Trunks challenged him to a fight, wanting to see how strong he is. Future Trunks didn't want to fight him, saying he is half Saiyan while Trunks is just a normal human, and hearing that ticked Trunks off. He charged in, his mystic form being his permanent base form, and struck Future Trunks, sending him flying away. He gets up pretty injured from the blow, as Bulma would yell at Trunks to stop it, but Trunks wasn't having it. Trunks begins pushing Future Trunks, talking all the trash he can to make him angry. Future Trunks tries to calm him down, but Trunks doesn't listen, as he stacks Kaioken on top of his mystic form, and if his mystic form already contains the power of his maximum Kaioken, Trunks pushes his body further, barely containing the energy as he rushes right at Trunks. He is sent flying as Trunks keeps talking, saying that he doesn't believe a version of himself that is half Saiyan is so weak compared to just a normal human, and even going to blame Future Trunks for being too weak to protect anyone he cares for, as this is what pushes Future Trunks. He powers up to Super Saiyan 2 and rushes right at Trunks, but even then Trunks is stronger than Future Trunks. All the training he has been doing with gods have made him much stronger than that of a Super Saiyan 2. Future Trunks is stunned that a human version of himself is more powerful than his Super Saiyan 2 form. Trunks powers down from Kaioken, his body pulsating from all the strain that he has been through, saying that if he wants peace then he has to earn it. He puts his hand on Future Trunks, telling Bulma and Yamcha, his parents, that he will help him and his problem, and teleports him to Beerus' planet. After explaining the situation in a short moment of Beerus being upset at a time traveler, Trunks would ask Whis if he can put both him and his future self in his staff so they could train as much as possible in a short amount of time. Trunks and Whis' bond has grown strong and would accept his request, and even help them as much as possible. Whis would be very curious of Future Trunks with the fact that this version of Trunks is a half Saiyan, so he would help him learn the God forms, which in a month or two he would acquire. Being a half Saiyan, Future Trunks caught up quickly. Once he got into Super Saiyan God, he surpassed Trunks rather easily, even if Trunks stacked Kaioken on top of his mystic form. This somewhat angered Trunks. I mean, yes, he wanted to help Future Trunks out, but this further shows him that no matter how hard he trains, it wouldn't be enough to keep up with the Saiyans or hybrids. This anger did help him, however, reaching something new. During a sparring match with Future Trunks, present Trunks was losing, no matter how much he threw at him. Future Trunks offered to use Super Saiyan God, but this made him more upset as he powered up, unlocking a new form, his Beast form. This shocked Future Trunks and Whis. Even himself was stunned that he got the form that Gohan had. With this new transformation, he was stronger than Future Trunks in his Super Saiyan Blue form, as he actually managed to beat him. At this point, they both thought they were strong enough to stop this threat and thanked Whis for training them. They would return to Earth and prepare to travel to the future, but Kami would stop Trunks and give him a small container, and gave Trunks a crash course on how to perform the evil containment wave in case that the threat is too powerful to beat. Trunks would take it and thanks Kami for the backup plan as they would leave for the future timeline. Once they arrive, Trunks would see all the destruction that is around them as he is shocked to see what this timeline has come to, and not long after they would see nearby explosions as they would head over to go see Gohan Black. This shocks Trunks, seeing someone who looks like a person he considers a rival and a brother. They both go to attack him, and at first things are going well as they are overpowering him, but then Future Trunks is attacked by Zamasu, and now the fight is an even playing field. Future Trunks wouldn't want to waste any time and powers up to his Super Saiyan Blue form to fight Zamasu, and at first he is beating him with ease, and even shoots a full power blast to completely erase him. As he is about to go head back to Trunks to help him fight Gohan Black, he hears Zamasu's laughter as he turns around to see Zamasu unfazed by his attack. Future Trunks is stunned but then is sent flying by Zamasu's attack. Trunks is fighting against Gohan Black, both in their base form. Gohan Black would mock Trunks, asking why isn't he going into his Super Saiyan forms like his future self, not aware of the timeline differences between Trunks and future Trunks. Trunks is angered by this, but tries his best to keep it controlled so that Gohan Black cannot use it against him. Trunks remained in his base form for now, not to exhaust himself so quickly, only using Kaioken for short brief moments, but for now, Trunks has the edge over Gohan Black. For a while, things seemed good for our Z fighters when facing against Gohan Black and Zamasu, but things would be turning for the worse. Future Trunks was getting tired by fighting Zamasu, as he would just regenerate all the injuries he takes, while for Trunks, Gohan Black was growing stronger the longer they fought and was slowly surpassing Trunks. It got to the point where Gohan Black actually unlocked the beast form for himself and was overpowering Trunks. Seeing this, Trunks would even power up to his own beast form, but even then, he wasn't as strong as he would have to resort to stacking Kaioken to have the lead, but he couldn't keep it for long as his body couldn't deal with the strain. Trunks did pack some senzu beans in case they needed it, and it seemed like he would be having to go through a lot of them just to stay in the fight. Gohan Black and Zamasu grew tired of fighting and would decide to fuse into Fuse Zamasu, and things got worse as now they were a lot more powerful and the two Trunks weren't too sure on what to do. Remember, in this timeline no one knows the fusion dance, nor even fused before besides Namekian fusion. The two would try to fight together, but even then it's not enough. Together they used Kaioken with both going far past their limits, almost destroying their bodies. They both would form key swords and rush right at Fuse Zamasu, cutting him into many pieces like how Future Trunks did with Mecha Frieza in the normal timeline. They would then use all their energy into a blast, hitting Fuse Zamasu point blank as they both collapsed to the floor exhausted and out of energy. They look over to the clouds of smoke in hopes that what they did finally ended him, but it didn't, as Fuse Zamasu just regenerated but into a horrific half-purple version of himself. Trunks grew angry that Zamasu kept coming back no matter what they threw at him. He opened his bag and he only had 2 senzu beans left. But then he remembered the evil containment wave that Kami told him about, so he had one final plan. Trunks tells Future Trunks to hold them off long enough so he can prepare this attack that could help them win. Future Trunks would try his best holding them off with Super Saiyan Blue and Kaioken stacked on top of it for a few minutes until his body gave out, as Zamasu prepared to finish him off, but then is caught in an attack, as we see Trunks performing the evil containment wave, sealing Zamasu into the container that Kami gave Trunks, as Trunks would fall over almost passing out, as he had to use a lot of energy to contain someone this powerful. Together they would get up and celebrate that they stopped the threat, as Trunks would also apologize to Future Trunks about the things he said, as he didn't know how bad things were, as he explains how he is glad he decided to come help his future self, as they're the same person no matter what type of alien DNA he has, as this event helps brings the two versions of Trunks together before ultimately returning to their own respective timeline. It has been a while since we last heard of Vegeta. After leaving his planet in search of strength to grow stronger, currently we are in the present time as we see a Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta standing over a defeated Broly. But first let's discuss how we got to this point. Back to when Vegeta first left to find more strength to keep the lead on Broly, and in case he fights the other Saiyans, again he needed to train. He traveled from planet to planet finding anything he can. Eventually he did come across a planet called Yardrat, filled with interesting people. He witnessed some of the techniques of the people of Yardrat and thought maybe he could learn something here. It went against his whole character to train under someone else, but there was nothing else he could do to grow any stronger, and with someone like Broly not working for him, he needs to make sure he can remain the strongest in his army. Swallowing his pride, he would ask Elder Paibara to train him, but he refused as he didn't know Vegeta or if he could even trust him. Vegeta grew angry but kept his composure. As he was about to leave, then suddenly some of his own army troops arrive on the planet, terrorizing the people of Yardrat. As he would see this and then have a smirk appear from his face, as he knows what to do. His soldiers are about to shoot some innocent bystanders, as this is when Vegeta would arrive protecting the citizens and then attacking his own troops in a swift manner before they could even utter a word. They are confused on why their leader is attacking them, as Vegeta would give his best heroic speech trying to sound like Goku, and once he was done, they are killed before ever getting any answers. Seeing this, the people of Yardrat thanks Vegeta for saving them, as the act was good enough to fool even Elder Paibara, as he accepted Vegeta's request and began training him, as Vegeta would learn all the techniques of Yardrat, but he did struggle quite a bit as Vegeta isn't really a calm and patient person as he was in the canon timeline. But still, his determination to gain power outweighed his own personal pride. He spent some months training under them but eventually learned every technique he could. He didn't go crazy strong, but the techniques he has now will help him train and even be useful in fights. Elder Piccolo would tell Vegeta now that there is a deeper hidden power within him that he has yet to decide to use, as he points at Vegeta's tail, since he does still have it in this timeline. He kept that in mind once he left the planet, continuing his search for strength, which wouldn't take long as he explores a specific planet and ends up finding a room similar to that of the hyperbolic time chamber that was on Earth. This is the same planet that mirrors trained Goku in this Dragon Ball Super manga. So, Vegeta would remain in there training on his own for as much as he can. He did figure out that 1 day in the real world is equivalent to 3 days in the hyperbolic time chamber. So it wasn't as good, but he still took it. He decided to make clones of himself to use them as training partners. Food wouldn't be an issue as he would have plenty of food stored up from his time traveling all in his spaceship. Every day he would fight his clones and would only rest when his body was barely standing. But reverting back to his old ways, he wouldn't allow himself to recover. This slightly hindered his progress, but he kept pushing, trying to aim the power that was within him that Piccolo told him about. He got an idea. He wanted to attempt to transform back into his grade 8 form and to try to become a Super Saiyan in his 8th form. He was a bit nervous as he hasn't used that form in years and he isn't sure if he'll get anywhere, but Piccolo did point to his tail that maybe the grade 8 form has an ascended form like Super Saiyan, or maybe he can use Super Saiyan to make his grade 8 form stronger. With just his theories to go off of, he created a key to allow himself to transform into the grade 8 once again. As when he laid eyes on the sphere, he felt the transformation coming as he grew in size and yelled out a monstrous roar. He sees that he still has control over this form, as he is still Prince Vegeta. He then would begin powering up as yellow aura forms around him, then a bright light that could blind an entire solar system, as his grade 8 form is now golden. But suddenly, he began to lose control, going on a rampage. He couldn't control himself, as all he could do was witness the chaos as he had to try hard to regain control so he wouldn't accidentally destroy his only way out of the hyperbolic time chamber. Vegeta would dig deep within himself to manage to gain control over himself, as then something else began to happen, as he was reverting back to his base form, or so he thought. Flashing yellow light engulfs his body as when he sees himself, he could see all that's changed from his appearance. He felt the immense change in his strength, so he believed he finally surpassed everyone on Earth, unaware of the recent events, but still, this power is nothing to laugh at. So for the remainder of the time, he would continue training the way he was doing previously, but now in this new transformation, he has, and for the sake of simplicity, we'll just keep calling it Super Saiyan 4, Vegeta would spend roughly a year in there, which would be around 4 months in the real world. And once he came out of the time chamber, he would still remain in his Super Saiyan 4 transformation, as now he has made it into his base form and even mastered the transformation in just 6 months since he achieved it. It would take him a few days, but he would return back to the planet that he left Broly and Paragus on, and everyone was stunned at the change of appearance that Vegeta had, but also his power was immense. He demands Broly to fight so they can begin training. Paragus tries to say something, but then Vegeta just shoots a pressure wave that sends Paragus flying across cities, as he crashes into multiple buildings, unconscious, but still alive. As this angers Broly, and then a fight broke out. Broly lashed out at Vegeta, his eyes a brownish yellow as his hair and aura spiked up. A sinister grin can be seen on Vegeta's face, as he toys with Broly for the time being. This fight is intense, as everyone around is in danger. Vegeta would use the techniques he learned from Yardra to confuse Broly, as Vegeta would create clones all around the battlefield, each using different techniques. Some use the Gigantfication to try to smush Broly, while others use the intertransmission to confuse Broly, and someone used healing to heal their main Vegeta. Their fight went all over the planet as they left destruction all over, but Broly was just being toyed with. However, Vegeta did sense that Broly's power grew stronger the longer they fought, and sees how Broly has also limitless energy, so Vegeta would use this to his advantage, using Force Spirit Fission to manipulate Broly's own energy, giving it to himself to fire it right back at Broly, hurting Broly with his own energy, causing more damage to Broly. This fight is a training match, but Vegeta wants Broly to go all out so he can fully gauge Broly's full power. And he wants to grow even stronger, and with someone like Broly who still isn't in his Super Saiyan form, is managing to hold his own against Vegeta's newest form, and is still growing stronger. Vegeta keeps trying to push Broly more and more, but nothing he is doing is pushing Broly enough to break past that barrier. He then looks at Paragus and thinks of something. He controlled all his clones to hold down Broly until Broly couldn't move anymore, as Vegeta then aimed his hand at Paragus, telling Broly that he will kill his father if he doesn't become a Super Saiyan right now. Broly begins screaming, trying to break free as Vegeta smiles, hoping this plan of his would work, but then Broly just powers down and looks down in defeat. Vegeta is disappointed, but he lowers his hand and sighs in disappointment as he knocks Broly out by hitting him in the back of the neck. Vegeta commands nearby troops to bring Broly and Paragus to the healing chambers as he walked off, a bit upset to himself, wondering why he didn't just kill Paragus after Broly just gave up, as he killed other people for less, as he begins to wonder that his time on Earth may have rubbed him in some way. He spent some days on the planet as he also recovers from the sparring match with Broly. He does sit and wonder what to do now as he isn't sure if there's much more out there in the universe that could help him grow even stronger, and even considers to go to Earth to see what has been happening since he left, and maybe even spar with Goku or Gohan to see if the power he achieved is truly enough to close the long gap, until suddenly two figures teleports in front of him. Vegeta gets into a fighting stance ready to face this potential threat, as it is revealed to be Goku and Gohan, as Goku laughs noting the huge appearance change that Vegeta has gone through, as Vegeta just grunts, asking why is he here and asking if Goku wanted to fight. Even though Goku would love to fight Vegeta to see how strong he has gotten, he had something more important to ask him, as Goku would ask Vegeta if he would like to fight some strong fighters from other universes, as hearing this piqued Vegeta's interest, asking for more info. Goku continued by explaining that there is this tournament against other universes and that their entire existence is at stake, and their team needs some more firepower. Vegeta smiles, saying that he found someone that could greatly help them and may even be their best fighter to win this tournament. Where we last left off, Vegeta just unlocked Super Saiyan 4 and fought with Broly, as then Goku and Gohan appeared on his planet telling him about a tournament, and I wouldn't think that this version of Goku would keep the stake of the universe being erased if they lose towards Vegeta. Vegeta would immediately join and point at Broly, saying he would be good to bring along too, and Goku wouldn't question Vegeta's suggestion. They return to Earth as Vegeta asks who else would be on the team as Goku begins listing the other teammates. Excluding the 4 of them, the other 6 are Trunks, Android 18, 17, Raditz, Krillin, and Kami. Vegeta would scoff, thinking that the team wasn't built well, but this was the team he had to deal with. Goku would ask Vegeta about Broly as Vegeta explained everything, including the new transformation that he has acquired, thinking he has surpassed all of them, but Goku says that he, Gohan, and Raditz all got new transformations as well, even talking about how they had been training with the God of Destruction, which made Vegeta's jaw drop to the floor. They arrived on Earth as the rest of the Universe 7 team sees the last 2 fighters that Goku and Gohan acquired, as they remembered Vegeta but don't know the other Saiyan. Raditz would even ask Goku if he was sure about bringing Vegeta in, as Vegeta gets annoyed hearing it, but Goku says that the second choice he had was to bring back Frieza, which everyone disliked a lot. They all prepared to leave, hoping the team they have would be enough to win the tournament. When they arrived, this is a whole new experience for Vegeta, as he didn't know there were other universes, or even the fact that the Z Fighters had training under a god and angel. He is pretty lucky that he didn't try to face them, as he would have most likely lose badly. Vegeta would actually pay very close attention, looking around, and to his surprise, Goku would tell Vegeta that their neighbor universe also had Saiyans, as Vegeta would pay some of his focus to them, but then he would also see Frost, resembling Frieza, as Vegeta wanted to aim for him right off the bat once the tournament began. The tournament begins as Universe 7 would all split up, as Goku and Raditz would stick together, Broly would stick near Vegeta, Gohan and Trunks would stick together, as the remaining 4 stick together as well. Vegeta aimed right for Frost right at the start and wasn't going easy on him, as he went into his new transformation and Frost didn't even stand a chance. The others were surprised to see how strong Vegeta has gotten without training with gods. Honestly, this Universe 7 team is much stronger overall, so some fights would be easier on the team. I do think Jiren would fight earlier on, seeing this team to be a threat, and with Goku he would want to fight Jiren first, and I think Vegeta would also join in as well, doing a callback to when they fought Frieza together years ago. Broly would struggle at first since he doesn't use his transformation until Vegeta yells at Broly that if he loses his father will die, and that ticks something in Broly, but not quite enough as he is getting beaten by Dispo. Dispo would then make fun of Broly, and I think this would be enough for Broly to activate his wrathful form and turns the tides of the battle. Dispo is still faster, but he no longer can really do any harm to Broly, so he would have to be focused on running away. Broly would slowly lose more control and begin to cause chaos around the arena, eliminating multiple fighters. Gohan and Trunks will fight together, taking out a whole universe on their own. They wouldn't even need to use their beast form much, even though Trunks isn't a hybrid, but what he lacks in strength, he makes up for in technique. Kami would definitely spend time fighting the Namekians from Universe 6. Once he learns about how they gain strength, Kami is a bit disappointed. Here I can see Kami making this fight a lesson, trying to train the two Namekians to show them that he did not need to fuse with every single Namekian to reach this level of strength. Kami would need to use a few levels of Kaioken to manage to stay above the two Namekians. The fight would be pretty much one-sided, with Kami holding back to teach them all he has learned himself, but ultimately would eliminate them one after another. Raditz would be facing the Saiyans from Universe 6 and takes Goku's place from the canon timeline. Honestly, I don't see any difference until Kale and Khalifa fuse into Kefla, and honestly Raditz would lose. Even second Kaioken with Super Saiyan Blue, he probably wouldn't be able to win. Even if he did, he wouldn't be able to fight anymore after using Kaioken with Super Saiyan Blue. It would take Gohan going into his beast form to beat Kefla if Raditz couldn't beat her. Gohan and Trunks would also go team up on Toppo, and seeing how strong they are, Toppo would use his God of Destruction form right off the bat, and this makes the fight almost even. Trunks wouldn't last long and be knocked out even in his beast form, while Gohan has to stack Kaioken with Beast to take an advantage of the fight against Toppo. Broly would be in a Super Saiyan form at this point, creating massive damage all over, in and out of the arena. He would manage to knock out Dispo and many others, including some members of his own team. He would be way out of control, and with the remaining fighters of Universe 7 being busy with their fights, no one would be able to try and calm him down, and I can see Broly trying to attack the eliminated fighters who are spectating, and even nearby Zeno. And sadly, here Broly would be erased by Zeno, something similar to like what happened with Frost in the original timeline. This shocks the fighters of Universe 7. Goku would look at Vegeta, asking him why he didn't tell him about Broly being out of control, but Vegeta didn't say anything, only saying that Broly was expendable and he managed to do a lot before being erased. Vegeta knew that maybe if Broly lost control, he would be taken down by the gods, and he didn't show much care for losing Broly, which made Goku and the others feel a bit off about Vegeta, but now wasn't the time about morals. The main big fights happening were Goku and Vegeta against Jiren, Gohan against Toppo, and Raditz and 17 against Hit. Goku and Vegeta were struggling hard with Jiren even when they used their strongest forms with Kaioken. I think this is the perfect moment where Goku would tap into UI Sign for the first time, gaining the upper hand with fighting Jiren, allowing Vegeta to help out the other fighters with their own fights. Vegeta joins Raditz and 17 and they fight Hit together and manage to take him down. Gohan honestly could beat Toppo, since Gohan in this timeline is the strongest one, since he trained a lot more in this timeline compared to his canon counterpart. Now it's only Jiren versus the 4 strongest fighters of Universe 7, and honestly he wouldn't stand a chance. They wouldn't just stand and watch Goku fight, and Goku isn't as battle hungry as he was back in the normal canon timeline. He wouldn't want to risk the chance of his home being erased. Recalling all the way back to when he killed King Piccolo and had to live with his consequences, and with that lesson learned early on, he would care more on winning and saving his universe. So with the combined force of Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Android 17 and Raditz, they managed to beat Jiren and win the tournament. Goku still being Goku, he would wish for every erased universe to be brought back, and this would also bring back Broly back in his base form. Frost was erased since he did try to attack after being eliminated and was brought back, so I think Broly would have the same chance. After that, the Z fighters will return back to their universe, but here I would see Goku actually taking Broly away from Vegeta. Vegeta would argue over it, but after seeing how little he cared about Broly, Goku wouldn't allow Vegeta to take Broly back to his planet. Vegeta would be surrounded by the Z fighters, and after seeing what Goku did to beat Jiren, he knew he couldn't stop Goku, so he would just scoff and go back to his planet, leaving Broly on Earth. Goku, after seeing the potential of Broly, he would train Broly to help him control his power more later down the line. Some months would then pass as we see Goku and Gohan training on Earth with Broly, as they are interrupted by Miras, a Galactic Patrol elite, as he tells them the issue of Moro escaping their prison and is looking for Majin Buu, explaining that years ago Buu absorbed the Great Lord of Lords and his magic was the one that sealed Moro away, and they need Majin Buu to help them take down Moro, as Goku laughs nervously, saying he may have beaten him a few years ago and now he is gone for good. This makes Miras nervous, but Goku, Gohan and Broly would offer to go and help the Galactic Patrol to capture Moro. Now with Moro, after he escaped, he would capture not a Frieza soldier but now a Saiyan regime soldier. and when Vegeta took over the army, he didn't care much about the Dragon Balls at the time, so he wouldn't focus his army on fighting the Dragon Balls. So none of his army would even know what the Dragon Balls are, so Moro wouldn't have a planet to specifically go to. He would go from planet to planet, absorbing his energy to regain his powers, so the Galactic Patrol would be a bit behind before finding Moro. But once they do, Goku, Gohan, and Broly would teleport to the planet, but before they do, Mirrors would warn the other Saiyans about Moro's abilities, and how he can eat energy to become stronger, and with this in mind, they would think of a plan to defeat Moro. Honestly though, with this lineup, Moro is pretty screwed. Goku would fight Moro first and not use any key attacks, but Gohan would sense that Moro is absorbing their energy by just being on the planet. Gohan would then begin to think of what to do, and with him being as smart as he is, I can see Gohan coming up with the solution of using the evil containment wave to steal Moro, as I think Gohan would know about it and maybe even know how to use the technique, as Trunks did learn it himself when having to help out his future counterpart. Gohan would have to be quick, and while he sets up the Mafuba, Goku and Broly would be distracting Moro, and with Moro having to deal with two very powerful Saiyans even in their base form, even holding back, he would forget about Gohan, and this would allow Gohan to catch Moro. Mirrors and the Galactic Patrol would arrive and be shocked to see that the Z Fighters had already stopped Moro pretty quickly, as Gohan would give the container to Mirrors. They would thank the Z Fighters for their aid and swiftness in stopping a potential great threat, as Goku, Gohan, and Broly would return back to Earth. Where we last left off at the Tournament of Power took place as Universe 7 did win much easier than in canon. Then not long after, Goku, Gohan, and Broly helped out the Galactic Patrol with recapturing the recently released Moro before he could do more harm, as he was stopped prematurely compared to canon. Now before going into the superhero arc, we must discuss the events of the Granolah arc, as that changes drastically. With Moro being stopped early before he could release more Galactic Patrol prisoners, that means Android 7-3 is never freed, meaning that the information of Saiyans on Earth would never be known to the Heaters. However, I do think the Heaters and Granolah would know that Frieza's army is now being ruled by the Prince of Saiyans, Vegeta, for a few years. Now some of y'all may think, wouldn't they hunt down Vegeta or put Granolah to fight him? And honestly they could have. But like in the original story, the leader of the Heaters, Elec, would have Granolah wait, as he would not be anywhere near as strong as Vegeta to face him. Granolah would want his revenge for his people, but would only be able to stand a chance with the help of Monaito's set of Dragon Balls. However, the other Dragon Ball would still be lost and found at the same time as it was in canon, so even if they knew about Vegeta earlier, Granolah wouldn't be able to hunt him down until the same time in canon. When Granolah finds the lost second Dragon Ball, he would take it and make his canon wish to enact his revenge against the Saiyans. Once he made his wish, he would hunt down Vegeta by fighting his army. Once Vegeta hears someone is challenging his army, he would go to Granolah, and once he finds him, they would fight without any questions. The fight is intense, no doubt. Vegeta even shows a new transformation, being Super Saiyan 4 Limit Breaker, but even with that, it is not enough, as he is not stronger than Granolah. Now here is the sad part, most likely Vegeta loses here and even dies here. He has all the techniques of Yarddrag and could use instant transmissions to try to escape, but that just isn't Vegeta's way of being a warrior. I can see Granolah telling Vegeta who he is and why he's hunting him, as Vegeta would just laugh at Granolah, not showing any regret in his racist past action this time around. And once Granolah tells Vegeta what he did to become stronger than him, Vegeta would just laugh even harder, knowing that he has lost to someone who relied on using a wish to make them stronger, calling Granolah a false warrior. Vegeta would even notify Granolah that even if he kills him, there are still more Saiyans out in the universe. This angers Granolah, forcing Vegeta to tell them where they are, as Vegeta is open to where they are, and how they are much better people than him. Something similar to his speech that he did in the Buu Saga. He tells Granolah that his wish wouldn't make him stronger than Goku, and tell him where they are, not out of spite of the Saiyans on Earth, but out of pride of his Saiyan race. Once Vegeta is dead, Granolah would leave and begin to head to Earth to end every trace of the Saiyans in the universe. At the same time on Earth, the Red Ribbon Army takes Dr. Hito out of prison. Magenta would not want him to create more androids, but to finish the project of Cell that Dr. Gero started years ago that was left unfinished. Magenta would make up a story calling Capsule Corp evil and wanting to take over the planet with the people they allied with, aka the Z Fighters. This would have Dr. Hito agree to help, as they would go to Dr. Gero's hidden lab, which was never destroyed in this timeline, as they would see the incubation of Cell, as he is much larger than what we normally saw him as, now that this Cell is pretty much evolved to his imperfect state. Dr. Hito wouldn't like how Cell looks, as he looks a bit too much like a monster, and begins working on him, mainly changing his appearance as Dr. Hito would realize that this being that Dr. Gero was working on collected data for years, even collecting data up until now. As the data that was recorded was immense that he didn't need to do much to Cell. He would awaken Cell as his appearance would look like his perfect form. Hito would try to give orders to Cell, but Cell wouldn't listen. He would begin a speech on how much better he is compared to anyone in the universe, as this Cell is much stronger than his canon counterpart, as this Cell has the DNA of the strongest fighters on Earth. Even if he never got the DNA of Frieza or Cold, he has the DNA of Buu and Beerus. I wouldn't say that he could have gotten info from Whis because of his angel status, but I think he could have gotten the DNA of Beerus more likely. Cell even has the info on Broly since he was on Earth for a short time before Cell was freed. Cell would drop a small ki blast that would create a huge explosion, completely destroying the hidden lab, killing Dr. Hito and any nearby Red Ribbon Army soldiers. The explosion would catch the attention of everyone that could sense it. Everyone was confused as they sensed multiple familiar ki, and even their own. Kami at the lookout was able to see everything that went on to his horror of this new threat. He telepathically contacted the strongest fighters on the planet, Goku, Gohan, Broly, Raditz, and Trunks, warning them of the new threat and how powerful he really is, as he said that he isn't sure if they would be strong enough to stop him, as Kami would go together with them as the 6 of them head to the explosion as they come face to face with Perfect Cell. Now the power they sense is immense. They even sense God Ki similar to Beerus within him. Most of the group is nervous, even Goku and Gohan aren't sure if they could be enough. Suddenly everyone senses a very another powerful ki nearby, as they will see Granolah exit his space pod and sees the nearby standoff. He then looks at our Z fighters and recognizes someone by their hairstyle. He looks at Goku and gets flashback to when he saw his mom come across Bardock, and knew they were Saiyans but was confused when he saw someone who looked the same species as Mornaito. Cell looked at Granolah and thought he was in the way, so he shoots a ki blast at him, but Granolah would easily deflect it. Cell was amused while Granolah tells Cell he wasn't his target as he shoots a ki beam right at Goku, but then Cell surprisingly deflects the attack, getting upset at Granolah for getting in his way with him fighting Goku, so Cell would attack Granolah and their fight begins. Everyone is confused, but the power emitting from Granolah and Cell, they couldn't just let them fight as the Earth would be destroyed, so Gohan and Goku would power up and join in the fight to try to contain it. Not long after, Beerus and Whis would arrive on Earth as they sensed a huge surge of God Ki and were curious on what was going on, as Kami would explain what little he knew, but to the surprise of Whis, he would say that the bug-like creature has the same ki that Beerus has. Beerus would step in and stop all the fighting, demanding an explanation. However, Cell would instantly strike Beerus, but this just pisses off Beerus as he begins fighting Cell. But all of this fighting has Cell reached something that he didn't know he had, as a red blazing ore erupts all over his body as Cell has unlocked his god form. Beerus actually smirks as he begins to get serious and their fight continues. This fight excites Beerus as he is trying harder compared to when he fought Gohan. Granolah then puts his focus back on the Saiyans and he rushes at Goku, but is stopped by Gohan, as he begins to fight Granolah, but due to Granolah's wish, he is much stronger than Gohan and Whis can tell. Whis would notify Goku on why Granolah is so powerful, but reveals the sacrifice that Granolah made for his strength was his lifespan was drastically shortened. He tells Goku that there may be only one way to get stronger than Granolah, and Whis begins telling Goku about the fusion dance as Goku never did stay in the afterlife for years and learn about this dance in this timeline. So this would be the first time he hears about it. Looking around, his only option right now to do the dance with is Broly. Even with their height difference, they still have to try. So with some time and practice, before they actually fuse, they would manage to succeed and fuse into Broku. With this fusion, they become overwhelmingly powerful as they power up to the legendary Super Saiyan form, and due to Goku being a part of the fusion, they would have control using Broly's Super Saiyan form and get the strength boost without ever going berserk. They jump into the battle and begin fighting Granolah, and he becomes overwhelmed. He is confused as he wished to be the strongest person in the universe. However, like how Broku explains, they didn't exist by the time he made that wish, so his wish was basically pointless as Broku didn't exist during the time he made the wish. This fight is similar to when Gogeta fought Broly with how one-sided it was. Here I can't see Broku would spare Granolah as he did come to kill them, and Granolah would even say how he killed another Saiyan named Vegeta. They are angered at his death. Even if he wasn't a good person, they consider Vegeta an ally for a very long time. The fused fighters would end Granolah before Granolah would even tell the story of what happened to his people and what the Saiyans did to them. Once that fight was over, they looked back over to the fight with Beerus and Cell, and the battle was reaching its climax. But Whis would appear between the two of them, telling Beerus that he must end the fight now, as if they keep going they could destroy multiple galaxies. Beerus grew upset at Whis, saying he was having fun, but Whis would give him a serious glare as Beerus would listen, teleporting behind Cell, saying he was giving him a good fight, but he was never truly using 100% of his power, as Beerus would charge up a Hakai and completely erase Cell from existence. Beerus and Whis would return to the Z Fighters as Beerus was interested in the fused fighters, sensing how powerful they are, saying that one day they will have to fight to see how powerful they truly are. With the Earth safe once again, the Z Fighters can continue with their peaceful lives. Goku would also use the Dragon Balls to revive Vegeta as he didn't think it was right to leave him dead. With all the threats over, the Z Fighters on Earth would continue training while Vegeta would train on his own to keep his strength up and to continue to lead his army all over space. Tell me how you think about the final part and how it did with the superhero arc. What do you think about the entire story as a whole? I do like how different I took this story compared to when I first did it in my old channel. What could have happened differently? Leave your thoughts down in the comments down below. Next what if I will be continuing is what if Goku wasn't a Saiyan? If y'all are interested and enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to be alerted whenever I post another part. Thank y'all so much for watching and for the support of the series, and I will see y'all in the next series. See ya!